Hello! How are we all doing? Oh, I had a catastrophe before we even started then, didn't I, Mike? But not to fear. How much worse can it get? No, don't tempt fate. I'm still suffering from the 13th, Friday the 13th. So, I'm alive, Mike. Oh, wonders will never cease. Hello! So many of you in the chat. And I can't even see it properly. I can see Graham, though. So, hello, Graham. Welcome back. And hello, everybody else. And also, if you're there, but you're not in the chat, hello to you. So, what fun and games so far? I want to demonstrate something on my iPad. My iPad's not having it, won't install it. So now I've got to install 16.3 before I can try and install the app, all while doing something else at the same time before that demonstration. So, usual fun and games here. How's your week been? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Oh, Patience said don't ask that question. Like that, is it? Oh, no. Oh, no. Tell me not. Right. Let's have a look at what we've got planned for today. Right. I can see that moving. Let's hope you can see that moving, because that was another fun and games we had, wasn't it? No, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that it's moving and you're seeing it. So now I've got a little... What's that? Oh, honestly, if it's not one thing, it's another. Look at that over the snapshots, Mike. Where's that come from? Why is that there? it's. I swear it's not there. I've no idea. Right, it's just being silly. So, we've got the week at MacBites headquarters. We've had fun and games, but then we always do, don't we? Then we're wrapping up Raycast with Quicklinks, and had some questions about those and how I've configured mine. So I'll show you. Then that's not a spelling mistake, that's really snapshots. This follows a video that I did where I know snapshots aren't a thing in Publisher, but they are if you know the trick. But then the question got asked, that's all very well, but I'm iPad only. I'll admit, it did go through my head. You know that line that I have, buy a proper computer. But I didn't. No, I said, oh, okay, and I found a way. Even though it's not there, doubly not there, you can still do it. Then we've got some freebies. I think that's Affinity Publisher related as well. And part 3 of Obsidian. We're looking at community plugins and more. So I did say, I think it was week 1, about the calendar and the daily note, which is, in my opinion, is critical, and it isn't there by default. So I then said there's a way to set up an entire year, save you clicking like a manic woodpecker. So I'll show you that. There's lots of apps involved in that. It's my kind of thing, that. Technical. We like it. Okay, we are broadcasting 1080p. That's still there, Mike. It's not going away. It's on every slide.
Oh.
I've no idea what's happening there. I will give it a kick while I'm doing something else. But we're broadcasting in 1080p, so make sure that you're watching in 1080p. And there's a like button down there, and thankfully that thing's gone away now, so jolly good. So give me a like for the fact I've got rid of it. There you go. So, the week started last Saturday. Oh, it was a good day. It was the halfway mark of ship 30. And usually I get tired, don't I, Mike, at the halfway point. Between day 15 and 18, without fail, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. But it was live session 5. And I know that Carol's with us. And Carol was the star of the show. She only won the prize. Well done, Carol. That was wonderful. Have you noticed, well, Carol might have done because she's been in these sessions, how many are men? It's like they rattle off 3 names and they're all guys. But luckily your name came up, so that made my day. Then there was Tesco, who didn't exactly cover themselves in glory, did they? They sent ham. We didn't ask for ham, but they sent ham. But apart from that, it wasn't too bad. So it could have been
very nice. I've been eating it.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, but we wouldn't have ordered it, would we?
No.
No, we were looking for beef and Hazlitt for the dog. But never mind. They got something here. And we're trying again tomorrow, aren't we? But this time we know the Hazlitt's not coming because they've not got any.
No.
So they do this to us. They tantalise you with having an item 1 week and you try it and you're like, oh, that's fabulous. And then they never have it in stock ever again. So we could well be living on cream eggs by this time next week. Because they haven't got any eggs either, have they? There you go. There's a plan. Which took us on to Sunday. Oh, this was your day, wasn't it? It was a lucky boy. The football was on. But the result, not quite so lucky. If United played every minute of the game, we'd be all right. But, as you can see, the winner went in the 90th minute. So, United really... do you remember when they only used to play the last 5 minutes?
I do.
And now they play like the first 89 and they leave the rest. Me wasn't bothered because it was Sunday. And you know what Sunday means. Oh, I literally am waiting with bated breath. I've not been like this for a TV programme since 24. But it was Series 3, Episode 4. And much as I wanted to know what happened next in Happy Valley, it was like, oh, but I don't want there to only be 2 episodes left, ever. But it was fabulous. Let me know in the chat, are you watching? It's just best thing ever. Best thing ever as far as I'm concerned. If you had to pick between that and 24, what would you pick, Mike?
24.
Oh, I think it's close. It's very close. Mind you, Kiefer Sutherland could tip it, couldn't it? Good point. Good point. So, Monday, I needed to calm down, didn't I? So I decided... This was because I was listening to an audiobook and I wasn't agreeing with it. So I decided I needed to listen to something that would not wind me up. So I decided to do another deep dive on how to take smart notes on Zunker Aaron's. I know, I've read this book about 6 times and I've listened to it at least 3 times, but I eased myself into the week with it. As I said, done it before, but you can't have too much of a good thing. And it is a very, very good book. And yes, that's the 2nd edition as well. I was hoping in the 2nd edition there'd be diagrams, but it looks like I'm going to have to draw my own. But never mind. And that took us to Tuesday. Our little princess was a jumped-up minx on Tuesday, wasn't she? You'll notice from the first photo, her tactic was keep shaking your head and she'll never get a picture of it. But, oh, Daddy was swift. Daddy grabbed her. And there it was. She looked like Adam Ant, only a negative of him, with a stripe above her eye. We've worked out what's happening, haven't we? Because later in the week, she ended up with one by her eye on the right-hand side. It's COVID. It's her ball, COVID. She's picking it up by the strap and swinging it, and obviously it's dirty. And then she's dirty. But luckily, it dries and drops off before she needs to be groomed, doesn't it? Because she'd like that even less. Look at that face. And I was saying to her, you are a filthy girl. And she's just grinning. She doesn't care in the slightest. Which took us on to Wednesday. We had to postpone something that we really love. Wednesday was Burns Night. It's a Scottish thing, but a few years ago we went to a Burns Night supper. Neither of us had haggis before. So it was like, oh, am I going to try this haggis or not? And I did, and it was gorgeous. That was the one you rocked up late to when you presented an Excel session in your dinner jacket and your dicky bow. Yeah. So Mike turned up late. You had the Scottish dessert, but we had to put it off because it was a crazy busy day here. So we're having our Burns Night supper tomorrow. But never mind. And this is not contingent on Tesco delivering haggis, is it? We've already got one. Yeah, we outwitted Tesco's with that one. Wednesday was also when updates rolled out to the Affinity apps. The one that got me was the fix for new documents, sometimes showing letter instead of A4. That's been driving me insane since November, because it means that I can't just say new file. I've always got to go in and make some changes. But apparently they fixed that, and if I ever get it installed on the iPad, I'll let you know. But at the moment, not good.
Rennie thinks he could eat haggis.
It's actually very nice. It's quite spicy, isn't it? It tastes a little bit like beef, but very spicy. Yeah. But it's nice. It is nice. Just don't think about what it is and you'll be fine. Do you know the bit that worried me the first time? They piped the haggis round the room. So there is a piper comes in, full regalia, kilt, bagpipes, and somebody walks in front of him and he pipes the haggis around the room. And all I was thinking was, this is going to be cold by the time they serve it. Actually, it wasn't. I don't know how they cook it, but it was beautiful. It was amazing. And that was when we decided that we would get one and we would try it here. And it was just as amazing. So that's what we'll be doing. So there's an update for Affinity Publisher, Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer. Basically little niggles that they've fixed, but if some of those niggles were niggling you a lot, then you'll be in a really, really good mood. Then it was Carabao Cup night. Mike was still smarting from the Arsenal defeat. I had high hopes for United, The commentator didn't, because you were in a webinar, weren't you? It was Mad Wednesday. You were in webinars all day. And he was late to the game. So not having an iPad with the match on, I was reduced to putting it on the wireless again. So I had the radio on and they got going, and the commentator said, and I quote, "Nottingham Forest have never lost at this stage of, well, it's Tin Pot, isn't it? Carabao Cup, English League Football, whatever cup." And I thought, really? I don't see them winning today. And they didn't. They did have a goal that was rather spectacular, but it was ruled offside, wasn't it, with a VAR, a VAR. So, yes, United won 3-0 and he was very happy. That update that came out, yes, then there was the bad news, because that was the 25th, and that was when the prices went up. So the licence is now $145, the apps are £60 each, and the iPad apps are £18 each. So hopefully you've all got your licences by now. Maybe there'll be another sale, but that's what it is at the moment. Which took me on to Thursday. I'm wondering if I was bored by Thursday, because I've been mithered for the whole of January by Spotify to make a playlist in a bottle. Playlist in a bottle. Did anybody do this? Because I thought, I'm not putting a playlist in a bottle. Maybe I won't be able to listen to those songs during the year. But in the end, when it said it was your last chance, I thought, go on, I'll do it. So I did. It could have been better. It could have been a better experience. Basically, they asked you questions and the answer to which was a song. But I wanted to put a song in it. So you start typing and it gives you a list to select from. Only I was putting this song in and it didn't recognise it. So it seemed it got tired when I got to number 8. So I did manage to get 10 in, and they'll unlock it for me in January. So I'll share it with you in January. There's something to look forward to. Did anybody else do this, or was there just me? Did you do it?
No.
No, I did.
Heard of it.
Oh, they didn't even let you know. Oh, well, never mind.
They might have done, but I just ignored any notifications that come up.
That's because you're hooked to my account, isn't it? So you just ignore anything from them. They're not paying. I am.
No.
Yeah, never mind. Anyway, I will share this with you next year because I can't remember what was on it now. And they've locked it away and they won't tell me either. In other news, one of the apps that I use a lot is Audio Hijack. And the new version of that came out last March. But there's an update and there's quite a few changes and enhancements to it. So here's hoping it's working okay, because I'm using it right now. Let me know in the chat, do you use that? I don't think I've done a demo of it. It's quite difficult to demo when you're actually using it. But if you want to see a demo, then I'll try and sort something out. It's difficult to explain, isn't it, Mike? But it's like magic. It's magic for audio. I use it with 2 or 3 other applications, but it basically allows you to do live what you would normally only be allowed to do afterwards. That's about the best summary of it. Which took me to Friday. Oh, I'm winding down, end of the week. What could possibly go wrong? Be careful what you ask. Pretty much everything. You may remember that I had an app called Snappy App, and at times I'd recommended this app. Snappy App and ScreenFloat are 2 apps that take screen captures. What is different about both of them is they have the ability to instantly float that screen capture above everything else on your desktop. It's way more useful than it sounds. I mean, one, you can play with people's minds with it. You could take a screenshot of a dialog box and leave it on the screen, and then obviously it's a screenshot, can't interact with it. But that would be very naughty of you. You close it when you're done with it, rather than have to go and open it and then have it sat open in an app. And then you click another app and the darn thing disappears behind the app that you're working in. It's genius. So of the 2, my preference was for Snappy App, which is this one. And it was because you can annotate the snaps. But, and I think it was Biggles that did it, that'd be right, it broke. It would still take a capture, but there was definitely something badly wrong with it. So I stopped using it and I switched to ScreenFloat. I did own them both, so it wasn't a case of having to go out and buy anything. ScreenFloat does exactly the same thing. There's a few features it's got that the other one doesn't have, and vice versa. But this one does allow you to make the screenshots a bit bigger. So I have happily been using ScreenFloat for over 18 months. So the culprit in all of this turned out to be Snappy App. It was sitting on the system since I installed everything, which was 2020, but I hadn't run it since 2021. This is pertinent to what happened next. So, I'm busy working and Camtasia crashed. Joy. I was recording twice, belt and braces. ScreenFlow crashed. Bad words were said. Because my thoughts were, which one of these is going to auto-recover if either of them do? So, I think, no, which one did? Camtasia tried to auto-recover, didn't get anywhere, which meant that recording in Camtasia was on my hard drive somewhere, taking up 60-odd gig minimum. So, I had to start searching the hard drive. I was looking for large files. I was looking in cache folders. I was looking in the library folder. I needed to find this recording that either wasn't recoverable at all, in which case I just needed to delete it, or it would be recoverable and I needed to move it. Anyway, long story short, found the Camtasia file. Not a problem. Then I had to hunt even more for the ScreenFlow file. Good news with the ScreenFlow file in the end, that did auto-recover. So I was very impressed with that. The Camtasia auto-recover, not so good. But while I was doing the searching, I found a folder in my library folder that had 111 gig in it. I thought that's a bit excessive. It was way bigger than anything else. Even these files that had been recordings for like 2 hours. 111 gig in one folder. But with it being in the library folder, I had to click and click and click, and it's like doing a dance trying to get me into where these files were. It was the Snappy App folder, and I thought there's no way I've ever accumulated 111 gig of files. So I opened Snappy App to find I had 290 screen caps. Even if each one was huge, that's not 111 gig. So put in the chat how many actual files Snappy App had saved into my library folder. I had 290 screen caps, so in my mind, there should have been 290. If it generated an automatic thumbnail, maybe there would be double that, but it would still be less than 600. It'd be 580. Mike had a guess, didn't you? Was your guess... Yeah, mine got into the thousands with a guess, but I think, what was your biggest guess?
I can't remember.
I think it was about 4,000 or 5,000.
I think so.
And I thought that was excessive. But remember, we are looking at 111 gig. So, what's your best guess? Who's got the highest guess?
Renee says 950,000.
There's always one, isn't there? There's
Carol
always
says
one.
1,000. Kim says 1,500.
Well, 1,500 would be right, wouldn't it? Because that would be basically 3 or 4 files. 1,000.
100,000.
Well, 1,000, which is Carol's, would give you like 4 files for each one. 100,000, that's possibly a bit excessive, isn't it? Well, you'd think so. Yeah. No, it wasn't. 100,000. Oh, I wish. There were actually 296,729 files in that folder. It took that long to open the folder. I thought the machine had crashed. The only thing that told me that it hadn't was everything else was working, but the Finder was really struggling. Really struggling. So I'm looking at these things. Eventually, I got them loaded into the Finder, and I could select one and press the space bar to preview it. And there was like 3 million copies of each file. Eventually, I got them in the bin. So you can see there, I had there my 296,729 files down the bottom. But that was only half the story. Because as I was moving them, I'm looking at the number and I'm thinking, is this going down? And it was a bit, but not as much as I thought it should be. So I'm trying to move them in batches of 500 and 1,000, which was going to take the rest of my life, basically. Eventually, though, I did actually get them in the bin. But while I was doing it, they were multiplying. Not joking. So I ended up in the bin with 240 gig of these files. And I ended up with a total of 323,795. And the problem with that is you can see the time on that. It was 12 minutes past midnight this morning. Took me till 5 o'clock. in the morning to get rid of them. I'd had to stop them, convince them to stop multiplying and actually delete what was there. And all the while I'm doing it, I'm seeing that the bin can't be opened right now because it's a bit busy. I know. I'm trying to empty it. Guess what? That app has been removed. I've no idea what they thought they were doing. But it ended up, for the last however long, they've had 11% of my hard drive, and it actually got up to 25% of my hard drive. Now I've got over 55% free. So I'm a happy bunny. That may last, alternatively it may not, but there you go. So do check your library folder. You never know what you might find. And it's easier to deal with when it's in the low tens of thousands rather than the hundreds of thousands. It did take over 5 hours to empty the bin. So fun and games I've had, and now my iPad won't update. So there you go. It's been that kind of week. Anybody else had that kind of week? Let me know in the chat.
Patience has.
Oh dear.
Something to do with a woodpecker damage.
Oh, I always use a woodpecker as an example, don't I? We don't want real woodpecker damage. Right, so let's move on to something that's working absolutely fabulously, which is Raycast. So the questions I've had have been about Quicklinks, and last week we looked at the extensions that you could install. Sometimes you don't need an extension unless you want extra features. So that's what we're going to look at with the Quicklinks. But need to announce that Raycast won Best Technology. Let's have a look. Best Mac app by the Mac Stories team. So if you were thinking of switching, there are other people that are enjoying it. So Quicklinks. I think we briefly looked at Quicklinks, but we didn't deep dive all that you could do with them. So let's do that. Right, out of there and into here. So, have I switched to Raycast? Yes. I've got two things that it doesn't do as well. One is the extraction of the icons. The other is remote desktop. But other than that, Raycast is working better than Alfred, which I never thought I'd be saying, but I am. Okay, so Quicklinks. We go into the extensions. Everything in Raycast is in the extensions. So we have in here the applications, and then we have individual settings for extensions that we've installed. So there's the calendar, which gives you my schedule. There was the convert case that I demonstrated. There's the clipboard. So as far as Raycast is concerned, down here, the Quicklinks it calls it a group. It's not exactly an extension. It's a group of other commands. So when we open it up, you can see I've got lots of different options for Quicklinks that I've created. Now, some of these I've created, some of them were there to start with, and some have come from a library. So there's 3 distinct sources where you'll get these kind of things. So when do you use a Quicklink and when do you download an extension? And the answer to that is, if you've got something like that's available from the store, like amphetamine, instead of just having a shortcut that runs it, this extension gives me 4 distinct things I can do with it. Start a current session, end the session, get the remaining time. It gives me multiple things to do with it. A Quicklink tends to be fairly simple. You're either going to a specific website, you're searching a specific website, or you're doing something local with an app. But for example, I downloaded and installed the Google Maps one, this map search thing. There was another one, I think, and it needed an API key. And trying to get an API key from Google Maps was like, I could be here for the rest of the week. So I decided I would do away with that one. So that one's there, which is... that's the one where it can find a place and it gives you the travel time. But I'm not interested in travel time all the time. I just want to know where something is. So usually I'm listening to one of my favourite true crime things and they'll mention somewhere and I'm like, where exactly is that? And all I want to do is type in the name of a place. So I don't want to have to install yet another extension and learn yet another different syntax to access it. So what I did down here is just create a Quicklink for it. So how I did that was to go in here and create a Quicklink. But you need to be able to know what to put in the fields. So for this one, if I can create another one and use that with it. So how that would work is this. I'm sitting here in Raycast and I want to add a quick link. And I get the option to manage quick links. Alternatively, I could go down and create a quick link straight from here. So let's create one. Those 3 fields that you're looking at are exactly the same 3 fields that you've just seen in the preferences. So I just need to put in here, so I'll put in new Google Maps, and then I need to put in a link. So the link is going to be in the format, it's a search. You can see the example it gives you, that google.com/search $Q equals is the string that you need. And this in the brackets after it, the curly brackets and query, is what you would type into Raycast. So what that looks like, if it's Google Maps, is that. So you need to know what that looks like. And it's going to look different for pretty much every website. But it doesn't matter if it's Tesco or Asda or Dunelm, I think I had one for Dunelm, or MacBites. You can have that set up just quite easily by going to the site and doing a search. But at the moment, that's what we've got in here. The third option is what browser do you want it to open in? Now, mine says Browser Ninja, brackets default. Browser Ninja is not a browser. It's an app that sits between a request to open a browser and all my browsers. Because you know me, I've got 20 of them. You know, I've got Chrome, Chromium, Canary, Vivaldi, Opera, Brave, you name it, I've got it. So I use Browser Ninja to act as like traffic control. So for instance, if I'm looking for a video on Envato, for reasons best known to themselves, it doesn't play nicely with Vivaldi. So I have that set in Browser Ninja to open in Canary. There's other ones that I've got. I used to have Notion set to open in Vivaldi when Firefox was my default. If I was creating something in here for Facebook, I would have it open in Firefox because Firefox puts Facebook in its own container and it can't track me. So those are the reasons that I would use different browsers, and Browser Ninja is what lets me do that. But if for whatever reason, maybe you're creating an Envato Elements search, you can choose other apps. You'll see you've even got here apps like Eagle and How to Spot and all kinds of stuff. My to-do app. All kinds of stuff, right, that are nothing to do with browsers. But you can choose your browser from there if you want. So we've now created a new one, which is new Google Maps. And at the end, I've got place. So if I want to create it, it's Command and Enter or press that. And it's created, gives you the green bit at the bottom. So if I put in new Google Maps, it should let me search. So what's happening is I start to type it, and as soon as I've typed enough that it recognises which one it is, I can press enter and it will move my insertion point across and it will say place, and it's asking me to type a place in. So should we put the Trafford Centre this time? Because we always put Old Trafford, don't we? Let's put the Trafford Centre and see if it comes up with that. Right. Obviously it's opening off the main screen, but I will bring that on. Just pulling it out. There we go. The Trafford Centre. Oh, that is very close to us. That's very close to us. In fact, let's move it a little bit. Right. Where are we? Let's take that out a bit. Right, there we go. We always say we're very close to lots of Apple stores. We are here. There's my little house. So we're here, and there is the Trafford Centre. We do have to go up here and then on the motorway and come off, but it's quite close, isn't it? So there's the Trafford Centre. So I just put that in, and technically there's the Apple store. There we go. There's the Apple store. And the donut shop as well. But never mind the donut shop. There it is. So you've actually created that just by knowing the syntax. If we look in here, you can see that's exactly what we put in, including the search. But this bit here, which is what we actually typed in, we had in the curly brackets and it said place, and that is how it works. So if you want to create these for other sites, you need to be able to know what the syntax is. So let's go to one that I go to quite a bit, which is called EPGuides. And EPGuides is, yeah, I know, 1995 called and wanted their website back. But the data on it's fabulous. So this gives you access to everything on TV since 1995. So do you reckon, where would 24 be if it's a number? That's a good point, that. Let's do a 24 search and see if we can find it. That's not helpful. Oh, here we go. There you go. There it is. Right. Was it really that long ago? Maya was 5 months old. And somehow we managed to keep him quiet through that first episode. It was a miracle. So what this gives you is all the seasons. So if I'm looking for who starred in a particular episode, what day it was on, whatever, you know, what year was that. So when I'm watching TV series, for instance, I watched Elementary, but I watched it way after it had finished. So I'm using the app guide to follow through to make sure I'm watching things in the right order. So I do a lot of searches here. So how does this work? So I look at the top and I see that the search for this is appguides.com/ and that just says 24. So if we type something else and see if it works, this will tell us what we need to include. So if I put in Happy Valley, notice no space, it should take us to Happy Valley. There we go. And there's the 3 seasons. Awesome. And all we seem to need to do is to put the TV show at the end. Now, there will be exceptions to that in terms of where a series has another show, totally different, unrelated show, with the same name, they tend to add a year. So, for instance, one of the ones that's just coming back, actually, repeats anyway, is ER. And I think if I put ER in, it goes to the wrong one. Oh, no, it goes to the right one now. They've been promoted. It didn't used to. It used to go to another series. I think it was before that one. But it's now going to the right place, so that's grand. So that's what we've got to do. That's what we've got to get into Raycast. And what else I'll do before we head off from here is go to MacBites and show you how you search in there. Now, obviously, this one, I've not programmed this to have any kind of magic in terms of syntax for searching and stuff, but there is a search button. So if we just put in there, Goombay Dance Band. Let's try Goombay. That's going to be pretty unique, isn't it? But it's been mentioned quite a lot. Oh, I do apologise, Mike. There's your bot. Right, and it made an appearance with Blofeld's Cat. Right, so if you look at the top, you can see instead of it just having a word tagged on the end, it has got a question mark and an S and an equals. So you basically cut this in half. This half, no, don't do that. Come on, this half is the bit that you need to put in, and this bit is the query. So what that looks like in Raycast, let's go in there because I've already created these. Right, we will search for Quicklinks, and that doesn't help at all because it's filtering them out, so we'll scroll instead. Right, I have these, so let's have a look for the App Guides one. There's the App Guides one. So you can name it what you like. That is what you would type in to use it. This bit down here, very, very basic. We know that the first half of that URL was just App Guides, and you want to put that in there. Now that actually says query. So how that looks when you use it, if you spell it right, it says, okay, EP Guides, and then it says query. But looking at what the map said, where it said place, I'm thinking maybe we could put that in there and we could put show. Let's see if it works. I've no idea. I've not done this. I shouldn't do this live. I know. I'm fearless. Right, now it says show. So you don't need to leave that saying query. You can actually put in what it actually is. So in this case, it's a show. So move to that. So you can either press enter or tab as soon as you've got enough in. So how I've had this set up for years, in Alfred, you had to give it a a shortcut. So it was EPG. In here, as soon as I start typing that, that's enough, and I can then put it in. So the show that I'm looking for, what else have we ever watched, Mike? Not much. We literally don't watch that much, do we? There must be something that I've watched. Something stupid like Midsummer Murders. Oh, I know. One for Kim, Vera. There we go. Let's see if it can find Vera.
I was going to say Holby.
Oh, yes, I did watch Holby, didn't I? I did, yes. Let's bring that back on. Did it find Vera? Oh, it did. It did. Well done. Right, I'll do Holby, because obviously that's where Maya came from. Right, the trick is to remember, don't put any spaces in. Now, let's try Holby City. It's struggling a bit with that one. Mind you, there was quite a few series.
Carol loves Vera, she says.
Do you know, I've only ever seen one episode. And do you know why?
That's one more than me.
That was my mother. Don't like that. So if she didn't like it, we were watching it. In our defence, it was her TV. So I've only ever seen one episode. And she didn't approve. But you know, there's quite a few that I could go back and watch. And I'd probably want to go back and watch all these as well. But that's just one example. Right, let's have a look at the MacBites one. So back off into here, back off into there, and the MacBites one that I've created. Again, it's a web search. So I've given it MacBites as the name. It's picked up the icon, which is the fav icon from the website. So that's why it's done that. And I just needed to put in there the first half, as discussed, and the end half, which is just a query. In this case, I probably would just leave it at query because I don't know what I'd be looking for. Something bizarre, probably. But it's as simple as that. Right, so to search it, you see me search MacBites, you see me search that. What else did we have there? Let's have a look. One that I use a lot, well, there's two that I use a lot. I use Amazon a lot and I use Audible a lot. So when I want to search Amazon, because I've discussed this with you, haven't I? I'll say to Mike, it'll be on Amazon. And he'll use Alfred to open a browser. And then he'll use the menu to get a new tab. I'm gone at this stage.
You give my dirty little secrets away.
So he's got this tab, and then he'll type in Amazon, and then he'll get to Google, and then finally he'll click a link in Google, and I'm like, Mike, no, he's just too long-winded. Right, Amazon. Let's say I'm looking for Smart Notes. There you go, you're done. There's my Smart Notes book. I think I did buy that on Kindle. I definitely got the Kindle version. There we go. As soon as it came out, I got the new version on Kindle. But that's how I search. So what do you guys do? Do you do it like that, or do you do it the Mike way? Because I've lost the will to live by the time he's got to Google. I really have. There's so many bad words said between us when you're doing that, isn't there? And Audible is another one. So I start to type Audible. We can put in there Smart Notes as well. And that will load the site in. It will pass that as a keyword. Obviously, this is slightly different here. That is the search at the end. So all you need to do, whatever
Patience
site
does it my way, but she didn't know there was another way in her defence.
Well, she's all right, but you have no defence, Mike, because you know you're just a naughty boy. So what we've got in there is it doesn't matter which site it is. All you need to do is go to the site and run a search and then look at the URL and take it from there. Simple as that. Now, when to use which one? Well, as I've said, like with the maps one, 9 times out of 10, if I'm looking at Google Maps, I'm going to type in a town name or a place name. So something like, Edinburgh Castle. I don't need directions. I'm not actually travelling today. I just need to see it on a map to see how... We do one on that bridge. Do you remember that episode of a TV programme? Was it Ridley? Can't even remember what it was now. But there was this bridge, and I said to Mike, that doesn't look like where it's supposed to be. And it turned out it was in Veraland. So I typed that in and off I went to find it. And then I dragged Pegman on there, and now I'm looking at the bridge. So I do that a lot. But I don't need the travel instructions. So I wouldn't use the extension for that. I would use the basic thing for that. So if you need something clever, you might need an extension. But if you're just searching it, even if it's a site of your own, you can use this method. And this method has the benefit that irrespective of whether there is an extension or not, you don't need it. So if there isn't an extension, you are in essence making your own, but it's a quick link. So are there any sites? This is dangerous, isn't it? Is there any sites that you would search like that? Let me know. And I need to watch Vera, don't I? I'll add it to my list. I will add that to my list. Is there a new series on at the moment? Because they, stupidly, if this is a new series that's on ITV at the moment, it's clashing with Happy Valley, so it stands no chance. No one's watching it. Or maybe watching the first hour. See, that doesn't work for me on ITV. If I'm watching something, there's ads in it. So I never start until 35 minutes in, because there's always 35 minutes of adverts. And that would give me 25 minutes to watch it before Happy Valley's on. So that won't work. But I will add it to my list.
There is a new series on, Carol says.
Oh, so Carol's not watching Happy Valley, she's watching Vera. You are the one person that's watching Vera. I'll watch it on catch up. There you go. I'll find it on catch up. Now I've got this guide. How many series behind am I? Let's have a look. Only 11. My word. Here we go. So this is 12, is it? 29th. Well, hang on a minute. The 29th isn't until this Sunday, so what was on last week? That's worrying. I will endeavour to catch up on that. It's probably on ITVX. You noticed it all says 90 minutes. Yeah, it is, but there's always 2 hours with the adverts. Right, so that's one thing that you can do with Quicklinks. But Quicklinks, because this was one of the things that was nearly a showstopper for me. Quicklinks also let you do something else. So let's go in and show you that. So obviously I can't download an extension for the black hole. Now the black hole is a thing of ours, and it started life as an app, and its icon was a black hole. That's where we got it named from. So you'll see black hole here. And I thought, if I can't, with 2 letters, BH, open the black hole, this isn't going to work for me. I'm not going to be able to use Raycast because I use this so often. So this isn't a web search. Now, it could be, because the actual folder, so how we use the black hole, short version, can you find the show we did it in, Mike? I think it was 90 something. We have a folder in a shared cloud. We have a need to put things in it and extract things from it. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But we need to do it in a really quick way, so it's easy to use. So to show you where it is and what it looks like, let's go there. That is my Google Drive. And you can see it's tax return time. Lucky me. But there is the black hole. And we don't want the black hole files downloading. So you'll see there is a download icon because these are in the cloud. But within the black hole, we have drops for Mike and drops for me. So these are files Mike is sending to me, and those are files that I am sending to him. And what I need to do, just by typing BH, is open up that folder. Now, when it comes to transferring files to it, that's a different business. So how that works is I have drop zone. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. There's drop zone. And there's drops for Mike. That's how I send them. Now you'll notice that that is hidden with Bartender. But Bartender has its own little Alfred stroke Raycast built in. So if I bring up that, there we go. Those are all the things that I have in there. So what I do is I just start to type drop zone, and it brings that up instantly, and I drag and drop the file to here. That's how the stuff gets transferred there. But it's how I get access to it. So how do I open it? So I go in there and type BH. You can see it says quick link on the right hand side, and on the left hand side it has an icon of the Finder, which should tell you it's going to open that in a Finder window, and there they all are. So that's what I do with it. The only issue with having that in Raycast is it doesn't have a pretty icon. It doesn't have the black hole icon. So I'll show you what that looks like. You may want to do this for any location on your computer. So I've given it a name of black hole. Its link is a local location. Now, it's in the library and it's cloud storage and it's Google Drive because Apple have just decided everybody's moving to, it's the Apple way or the highway. So Apple have decided where that needs to be, which is in the library folder. But normally, originally it wasn't. You just point it to a nice local, well, you can see where that is over here, can't you? It is Google Drive, My Drive, Black Hole. So it should just point there. But I've actually had to point it to the location in the library folder to get it, but there you go. And you want it to open with Finder. Now, this is actually better than Alfred if, instead of opening it in the Finder, you want to open it in a Finder alternative. So in here, you could search for Pathfinder, or you could search for forklift. And that would mean that it's a local folder. It's local, but it's a cloud folder, if you're with me. But you can decide which app it actually opens in. Now, I'm all right with the Finder, but you could do that if you wanted to. I don't think it's obvious that this works locally. You see this by inserting a query and you think, oh, this only works for cloud stuff. But no, it doesn't. It works locally. And you have got this where you can choose the file or the directory. So if you're not sure where it is, you're not going to be able to navigate to it, are you? I think it would probably put that in even if I navigated to the Google Drive thing because it's a virtual drive. So I think it would put in the right place anyway. I do have other locations in there. So this is another one that does exactly the same thing, but that's in my Documents Local folder. Is that it? Do we have any more in there? Oh, posted for review. So if I post something for Mike to review, that's going to be in Dropbox Resources review process. So I just put PFR and it opens up the review folder. Other things that I've done with it that are slightly different is this one that says Sprint. Now, it's got a different icon. The name is Sprint. The application is not called Sprint. The application is called FlexTime. But what I've done here is in Dropbox, I have my application support folder, and you know that that's where I put all the supporting files for an individual application. So if I'm going to do a sprint, it's usually like 3 Pomodoros and a break or something like that. I have that set up in FlexTime. But rather than do a mic and struggle to remember what the app was called, and then remember it was FlexTime, and then open it, and then go and find the file, I am opening up a file before I'm opening up the app. So if we look what this is called, it's in that application support folder. It's in an app, and it's in a folder called FlexTime. It's called sprint.flextime. And what I'm doing is opening that file, and I'm telling it to open it up with an app called FlexTime. So what that looks like is when I have the need to do a sprint, I just type in sprint and press enter. And somewhere on my million monitors, there it opens it up. So you can see there is a sprint of 25 minutes, then a sprint wrap up of 2 minutes, and then a pop, which is take 3 minutes at the end to kind of wrap it up and say what you're going to do next. And rinse and repeat. Now, at the moment, that's not set to repeat because there's no break in it, but that's what I would do. And that is how I access it. So I only need to remember one word, which is sprint. And if I want to do something else with a timer in here, then I would create another one of these with whatever I have called that. So you can see that one's sprint. I could call it, 2-hour session, whatever I wanted to call it. And I don't have to remember the app because I don't use that often. And I don't ever... let's have a look. If I do open it. Yeah, I don't ever want to start like that because then I've got to think, and I don't like to think, waste time. I've got to think, what am I going to call this? What's the duration of it? What do I want to happen at the beginning? What do I want to happen at the end? Do I want it to repeat? No. I don't want to start like that. Obviously, I could go into here and I could go into recent and I could open it up, but then I've got to remember which one it is that I'm looking at. So we've also got in here 15-minute rotation, which is 15 minutes and then whatever I'm doing. So you can see this is MacBites stuff that I do. So I haven't got those dedicated things for the others yet, but I have for the Sprint because that's the one that I use all the time. So that is pointing a quick link to a file and having it open an app automatically. And let's have a look. I think those are all the different types, but let's have a look. So Amazon's a search, the anagram solver's a search, Audible's a search. The numbers game, I think, just takes me there because I love it. That's the solver thing if I can't solve it myself. That's naughty, but I hardly ever use it. This is Envato Elements, and you can see I've changed that to open with Canary because it's the only way I can see the video previews. This is a search that searches flat icon. These are Google searches. This is Internet Movie Database search. That's the custom MacBite search. That's the one we don't need anymore, so I can get rid of that because that was created here. Pexels is a search. Pixabay is a search. This goes to a folder in Dropbox. What else have we got? Oh, this one's a bit cool. You might like that. You might like that. I've got a YouTube one, which is a quick link. So all I need to do with that one is let's look at the YouTube one and then look at the next one. The two kind of go together. So if I type YT, that's enough. Move across to it. And you can see in there that the top one is a quick link. The second one says application. And that is an Edge app, I think, or a Chrome app that I created. It was a terrible idea, but it's still there. But the top one is what I'm looking for. So I want to run a query on this. So let's say I'm looking for a video of mine about snapshots. Right, it will open that up in a browser window. Hopefully, it'll be the right one. That looks like the right one to me. Right, so that's the video that I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is click on that video. We're not going to play it or anything, so just stop that. But up here, we've got a lot of information. We've got the watch $equals, and then we've got the channel. What we're interested in is that bit there. And that bit is the video ID. So I'm going to copy the video ID. You're wondering why? To show you the next thing. But any video ID, you could get it from there, or you could right click on here and copy the video URL, which is probably a lot easier than fiddling about up here. So I've copied the URL. What I need to do next is to go into Raycast, and there was a quick link that was thumbnail. So as soon as I start to type thumbnail, it gives me the result. It's a quick link, and I press enter to move across to the query, and I paste in that, but I don't need the beginning. So I delete that. So I've just got the video reference, and then I press enter. And that takes me to a magic site which extracts the thumbnail from any YouTube video. So this, I just grab that, let's put it on there, and I've got that. So if you're making notes and you want the poster image, it's really easy to do it. Now, how that was done was just up here. The URL is from the beginning up to the letters VI/. The next few characters are the video URL, and then at the end of it, it says max res default. So what that looks like in Raycast is exactly as you would expect, or I'm hoping it is by now. So if we go to thumbnail, you can see the beginning of the URL up to the VI/, then query in squiggly brackets, and then max res default at the end. And it's going to open it in the default browser. Unsplash is a search, Wikipedia is a search, and that you've just seen me use. So there are all my quick links, what I use them for, and the different types that there are. Some are as simple as going to a website, some are searching a website, some are opening up local folders, some are doing searches of stock sites, and some are doing actually running files, which in turn runs an app. So do we have any questions about that?
We don't.
Stephen's liking that, a cool shortcut for Raycast. I'm wondering with these, I know in Alfred, let's get that thumbnail one. You can open it and you can duplicate it, but I'm not seeing a way to share it. But if you wanted to do that, it would be a simple matter of copying that link and then handing it off to somebody. And the somebody would need to create a new quick link, give it a title, paste in what you've given them, and choose what to open it with. So it would be nice if you could share these, but they are simple enough just to have a link that you paste in, and that's it. Okay.
There is a question just come in.
Right, where we go.
Patience says, so the alias is what you type in to trigger apps or searches?
Yep, it is. What I tend to do with them is try and make it either separate words that I can use the first character of, but I don't tend to do what I've seen in here with some of these, which is if you look at the Google ones, I'm not typing Google images if I want Google images. I'm typing images. At best, I'm typing G images, and I want to get as far as GI, and that's it. I'm done. So for Google Maps, for instance, I tend to type maps. It will learn. So if we try that images one, if I type images, right, it comes up with some other things before it shows me Google Images. But if what I want is to search Google Images, and so we could search Google Images for, should we search for me? Because that's always an absolute scream. None of them are me. No, none of them are me. Definitely not me. But it's so funny. One of these pictures has been around for years. And many, many years ago, people thought it was me. You know those dancing girls? It definitely wasn't me. Trust me on that. Oh, I don't see it. It's been around that long. I don't see it anymore. It was dancing girls in orange leotards. Yeah, not me. But it does say underneath Elaine Giles. And maybe it is, just not me. That's not me either. That's Mike. But it's funny. Right, so if I go back into Raycast and I start typing images again, you can see now it comes up top. That's not because I've used it recently, it's because I've used it full stop, and I haven't used Raycast for image capture, image opt-in, or anything else either. So there is a ranking involved in this, and that's what I said one of the other weeks. If you Command and K, you can reset the rank. You would do that if you've been using something intensively for a week, and that's it, like for the tax, and you're never going to be using it, not for the next 51 weeks, are you? So you can reset the rank and it'll probably disappear down to the bottom as you use other things. But it's coming up top the more you use it because it's internally ranking as well. Why on earth is, what's his face? The Virgin guy, Richard Branson on there. But it's in Portsmouth. So there was a lady called Elaine Giles who was the ticket office manager for Portsmouth Football Club. So that was always good. But no, none of those are me. Never mind. Ah, great fun. So, yes, that's what's happening. Anything else?
Nope.
Oh, Kim's going to try it. Excellent. Excellent. Right, let's get rid of all of these and head off into the next one then. Oh, this should be fun. Yes, this is going to be great fun on account of the fact that the iPad's not working. But you never know. Right, question came up. Right, snapshots in Affinity Publisher on iPad. Right, I made a video. The video we've just seen. If you want to go watch it, that's the QR code for it. Right, that was in relation to, I wish there were snapshots in Publisher. There are snapshots in Designer and Photo, and I have no idea why they would not put that in Publisher. Because you may have different versions. For instance, we've got one that's gone to print in the last week or so. And obviously, if it's gone to print, it's got all the print stuff on it. But we also need to create PDF. So that will have different content. So I may want those in one file, not two. So having the ability to have snapshots in Affinity Publisher is necessary as far as I'm concerned. So that video shows you how to use Studio Link from Affinity Publisher and create a snapshot in Designer or Photo that works in Publisher. So you then take the file back into Publisher, you do whatever you want to do with it, you take it back into one of the others, you make another snapshot. But this week, somebody asked the question, I'm on iPad. And I thought, oh dear, buy a proper computer. No, I mustn't say that. So I thought, it's going to be trickier. And it's going to be trickier for one good reason. So let's go and have a look why it's trickier. Right, I'm going to have to use the old version if this iPad's going to play ball at all, but, fingers crossed, you never know. Right, mirror, where we go. Mirror, let's have a look. Are you going to do... Oh, you are. Jolly good. Right, so it's not the very latest version because it's just refusing point blank to update. But, fingers crossed. So, here's Publisher. Not the latest version. Right, I'm going to start a completely new file. So, but it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't need to. So, let's make a new document. And it's an A4 document. So I'm going to keep the document really simple because the document doesn't matter. But in essence, what I'm going to do here is put in some text. So I'm literally going to put in revision 1 of the document, best designed document ever. Not. So I've got this file and it's got some content. And I go back into my live docs on the left and the file is the top one on the left corner. At this stage, this file is not really saved. It's in here in the live docs on this iPad. If the iPad is destroyed, when Renee dances down the stairs with it. I still need to know if that was deliberate, Renee. You'll lose it. If you can't get in the iPad, you've lost the file. So what I want to do with this live document is save it somewhere. So I'm going to tap on the burger and I can save or save as. At this stage, both of those will do the same thing because it's not saved anywhere. So it doesn't really matter. I'm going to save it. I'm going to give it a name. So we'll call it Snapshots. Snapshots. It's going to complain, but never mind. And save it. Right. And the first thing it's going to do is say, where do you want this saved? Now, it's defaulted to iCloud Drive, and I actually logged into iCloud Drive in a browser the other day. There was a calamity, obviously, or I wouldn't have been logging in. But when I did, all my Affinity folders were perfect. The Affinity Designer one had the new Affinity Designer icon, and the Photo one had the new Photo icon, and the Affinity Publisher one wasn't the beta one, and it had the right icon. It was fabulous. But on here, you can see it just will not be changed. So probably with this file being a Publisher file, it's logical to put it in the Publisher folder. But for what I'm going to do today, it doesn't make a difference. But just because this might be what you're doing, I'm going to put it in that Publisher folder, irrespective of what it's called, right? And I'm going to tap Move, and it says replace it. That's fine. So I'm going to replace it because I already had a file that I did a demo in, and then I deleted it. So this file that we've got here is now linked to that file that we've just saved. Because if we go into it and we make a slight change, so let's change the colour of that to a nice red. Right, so we've made a change. When I go back to it this time and I tap the burger, if I tap save, which was exactly what I did last time, you can see it says I'm saving this to iCloud Drive. So it knows where its master copy is. It knows it's on iCloud Drive. Why are you taking that long? I mean, come on, seriously. I made one change. Watch it crash and burn. I knew this was going to happen. You ever been there, Mike? Oh, come on. And I doubt there's anything I can do, is there? Oh, has it sorted itself? Fingers crossed, eh? So that file has got the number 1 in it, and it's got a colour on it, and it's been saved out of the live docs. For safety's sake, this is what I would do, and I would delete that. So I'm closing the document from live docs. I'm not deleting the file per se because it lives in the cloud. You've seen me save it to the cloud. I can't create a snapshot in here. There's no option. So I'm going to come out of there and I'm going to go into Designer. It doesn't matter if it's Designer or Photo. Both of them support it. Now, the files that I have open in live docs in here are all my Designer files. But if I go to Open and say Open Document, it's pointing at the moment to my After Hours files. But if I go to iCloud Drive, obviously most of the time I'd be going to my Affinity Designer folder. But there's nothing to stop me going to the Affinity Publisher one and finding my snapshots file and tapping it to open it. My snapshot file is now open. I'm just going to go back a step. It's open in the live docs of Designer. So I'll open it in there. Now, I can do things in here if I need to, because the file formats are totally compatible. So if I wanted to change that to say A instead of 1, or I want to change the colour, I could do that. I would say, for your own sanity, do the changes in one app and make the snapshot in another, because otherwise you're like, what did I do with that? But there is the text that we've got. I will move that down slightly though, so it's there. And you have the option on the history panel. So I'm over on the right hand side here, and you see where the blue dot is hovering over that, what looks like a stopwatch. That's what I'm going to tap. And in there you can see I've got the history, and at the bottom it says snapshots. So it's not a dedicated panel, it's within the history panel. And I tap there. And there's no snapshots at the moment, but we'll add a snapshot. So there's our first snapshot. At that point, I'm going to go back to my open docs, my live docs. Bearing in mind at this stage, the changes I've made, which are to create the snapshot, are only in the version of the file that is in this live docs. I need to save that back. So I've tapped save, it saved it back to iCloud. I'm going to close that file from there. And the only reason that I'm closing it is it's far too simple, because this is so convoluted. Why I make it this way, but because it's so convoluted, you do not want to end up with multiple copies of the file open and not know which is which. So always close it down when you've done. Right, then I go back to Affinity Publisher and I think, oh yes, I'm working on that file, so I'll go and open it. And I go to iCloud Drive, Affinity Publisher, and there's my snapshots file down there. You cannot in here see that snapshot. You do have the history panel, but you can see at the bottom of it, there's no access to snapshots. It just doesn't support it. So what we will do is we will go in here again and we will add something else, and we'll put, come on, well, yes, I would like the keyboard if it's all the same with you. We'll put 2 in, which is the second step. Yes, that was the dog. She likes this. Right, I'm not going to do any more with that at the moment. I'm just going to have the 2. So that's the change that I've made. And I want to go back into here, and guess what? I want to save it again. And then I'll close it down. Yes, I'm sure. And then I go back into Designer. Now, obviously, I'm doing this one change, go and make a snapshot, one change, go and make a snapshot. You will probably be making a lot more changes between the snapshots, so it won't seem as arduous as this is. But I need to open up the file again, go into iCloud Drive and Affinity Publisher folder and opening the snapshots. And you can see we have the 1 and we have the 2, and I need to make a second snapshot. So open the history, open the snapshots, hit the plus. There's actually already enough data in there now to show you how it works, which is I can tap the first one and there is a button. Oh, where's my mouse? Let's wiggle the mouse at it. This one here, which looks like 2 arrows around a dot. That. Right, I'm going to tap that, and that will roll it back to snapshot number 1. Tapping the second snapshot and the same button will take it back to snapshot number 2. Right, awesome. But at this stage, you still need to save it. So you need to save that back to the cloud. You need to close it down from in here, and you need to return to Affinity Publisher. Are we dizzy yet? This would be so much easier if they just added the feature, but there you go. So I'm going to do this one more time, make sure that you are all up to date with it. So I am opening the file in here. This is the 1 and the 2 file. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to add a 3 to it. Oh, the design genius that's on show. Right, so bring the keyboard up, type 3 in there, and we're looking to create at this point. No, we don't want to do that. Let's bring that down. Right, we're going to end up with 3 snapshots. So once you've made the change, go back, save the file. You should be saying this with me now in your sleep. Close the file, close the app, go back into one of the others, and just for difference sake, let's open it up in photo. Doesn't make a jot of difference which one you do it in. But we will go to open. We will open a document. Choose iCloud. Choose the publisher folder. Go get the file. There is the file. We have, this time, the panel is right on the bottom. I've just realised you're not seeing the interface, are you? Where is Mike when I need him? Okay, you may have been seeing the interface in the other one. It's something to do with the preferences, isn't it? Oh, present on external displays. No, that's not what I want to do. Let's go back in. Interface. Right, so down at the bottom is where you'll find the history panel. So go into there. You will find the snapshots in there, and there are the snapshots that weren't even made in this app. They were made in Designer, but that doesn't matter. Let's make another one. So there's the third one. Go back out of there, save the file. So it's saving back, close the file down from in here. And finally, we can go back to Publisher, open the file and have our 3 snapshots already in there. So the file is still readable. You've seen that file go through Photo and Designer and Publisher. To toggle them on and off, it needs to be elsewhere. So I didn't make any changes to that. I'm just going to close it. When you need to switch between them, this could be where when you're sat in front of a client, just open it in a different app. One of the ones that does support it. So the third one was added in Photo. Now I'm back in Designer. And in here, we have snapshots. We have the first snapshot. So roll that back. We have the second and we have the third. And you can roll them back in any order you want. So if you're showing like, this is the one I think you should have, and they're like, as per usual, no, I want the first one. You can roll them back. There's a couple of limitations on this, apart from the fact that you'd be dizzy when you've done it. If you've created the snapshots on the desktop, they will ripple through. So if you've done them, you've done your work in Publisher, you have switched via Studio Link to one of the others, and you've made the snapshots, they will come through. Can't find a way to rename the snapshots in here. It's just a thing. It's always been that way since version 1, and I don't think it's changed. I've tried swiping, I've tried long holding, I've tried incanting a chicken. It doesn't work. It would be nice if I could name those things as to what they are. So revision 1, low quality images, multiple images. It would be nice if I could do that, but I'm not seeing it. Maybe you can find it yourself, but I'm not seeing it. The other thing I did was go up there, and that didn't do any good either. But there you have it. That is how you do that on an iPad. Who thinks that's grand and who thinks that's a right royal pain? It would be so much easier if they just added the snapshot feature to Publisher and be done with it. So it can be done, but it's a bit tricky. Right.
A couple of questions.
I'm going to stop mirroring so I can see the questions, because when I share my iPad, I can't see a thing. Right, where you go, Mike? What are the questions?
Can we, or how do we, direct the snapshots to Dropbox where the rest of my files are stored?
Right, it doesn't actually matter where the files are. So although I've put them there, my files would be on Dropbox as well. So let me get back into the iPad and show you that. I deliberately didn't demo that, because you remember last time when we had the fonts in there and it didn't like it one little bit. Right, let's say in here you've got your file. So I'm going to open that file, and I will actually open this file from iCloud. So there's my file with its snapshots. Right, if I want to save this somewhere else, right, it's got the snapshots in it, that's absolutely fine. In here, instead of choosing save, which will save it back to iCloud Drive, I choose save as. And I do a save, and it stops and it prompts me. It says, where do you want it? So I would tap Dropbox. My stuff is in application support. It would be in Affinity Publisher. And I would just tap move. And now I have a copy of that file in Dropbox. I will go into here and we'll do 4, just so you can see there's a change. So let's draw that out there and add a 4 to it. right, and come back into here. That now needs to be saved. The copy I'm saving is saving to Dropbox automatically now, because it knows that that was saved up to Dropbox. So I close it down from in here. I go into one of the others, it doesn't matter which. Naughty, didn't close it down, but I will close it down. And I'll open it up from there. So I'm going to open a document, this time from Dropbox, in Application Support, in Affinity Publisher, and somewhere in there will be all kinds of stuff. There we go. And you can see it's already got the 4 on it. So that was the file that was open in Publisher. So it doesn't matter where it is, as long as both applications, Publisher and whichever of Designer or Photo, has access to the same file. It doesn't matter if it's pCloud, Dropbox, any cloud service, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. But they can't seem to get to each other's files from the live docs, because these aren't actually necessarily saved. Some will have a saved version in the cloud, but others won't if you've not saved it out to the cloud. So this one here that says untitled, which is me playing around, that's not been saved. If it had, it would have had a file name. So that's not saved anywhere, but it doesn't matter which cloud you use to do the dance with, as long as both applications can get to it. What else did we have, Mike?
We had, where have the questions gone? So this is from Chris. So what's the bonus here as compared to using layers and turning layers on and off?
If the content that, you don't want included can be turned on and off with layers, then leave it like that. But this is for things that can't. So, for instance, if you're changing a font or you're changing a graphic, the only way to do that with layers would be to have both graphics in there and then toggle one off. If, for instance, you had a layout and there were 5 graphics and you had 5 alternative graphics, you would have to go through and do 5 things. Whereas with a snapshot, it's one thing. This is the layout, version A, and this is version B. And it's a quick switch between the two. I mean, that feature's been in Photoshop for years and years and years. And I remember when it was added, it was like, well, it's a nicety. But you get used to it really quickly. It is a very powerful feature if you're managing multiple documents, because you then don't need multiple files. So it can be incredibly useful. But if your need is simple, for instance, if you've got a magazine and you've got English copy and Spanish copy, and the text is the same length, then just turn the layer off. You either turn the Spanish one on or you turn the English one on. And that would work, but not for something more complicated. For more differences, maybe you've got different styles. I could demonstrate, not this week, but I could demonstrate something that I've done where I've put snapshots in a template. I started building this template and it was fairly basic, and then it got advanced. It's got multiple artboards in it, all kinds of stuff. But I noticed that when I'm making posters for my YouTube live streams, it's like I've got this set of blank posters. So they're like grey. And if it's publisher, I need to add all the publisher content. And if it's designer, I need to add all the designer content. So it's going to have certain colours and it's going to have certain graphics on it. So I'm there with this template, and I've created the template because it's got multiple artboards, it's got multiple exports. It's fabulous. And I suddenly thought to myself, just a minute, if you add snapshots to this, when I start a file, I can open up a standard template with just grey content, and I can roll it back to a snapshot that is either my Affinity Designer starting point, my publisher starting point, or my photo starting point. So it can do a lot more, but you have to work with it in terms of what do you need it to do. And if your requirements are quite straightforward, nothing wrong with turning the layers off. But this allows you to do a lot more than just that in one maneuver. But obviously, if you're on an iPad and you've got all that maneuver to create the snapshot, yeah, it's kind of off-putting, isn't it? I just wish they'd add snapshots. It's such a good feature. And to me, it's more important in Publisher than it is in Photo or Designer. And it's in both of those, and it's infuriating. But it can be done. Do we have any other
Yeah,
questions?
another question from Chris. Guessing this works on the desktop app also. Do you have to switch programs or can you just change personas?
Well, when you say change personas, I will show it to you on the desktop. Watch the video that I've done as well, because that explains it in full, but I can show you what it can do in here. So let's open Publisher. It's having a rare old think about it. Which screen do you fancy? Oh, the dock isn't even bouncing. That's not good, is it? It is literally not running Publisher. Really? I definitely said run it. Oh, now it is. It's having a think about it now. Right, let's get it open. And it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. This one is updated, so maybe that's its problem. It's going to need to phone the mothership and things. Right, there is Publisher, and here is the new file dialog. So I'll just create a new file. Don't need that to be quite so wide, do we? And do the old 1, 2, and 3. So there is 1. Now, if I'm working in Publisher, then I will use Studio Link up here to just switch into designer mode. And from there, I usually have it showing at the bottom. Why is it not showing at the bottom? Has it turned it off? It has. Turn the snapshots on, which is down here, and make a snapshot. Go on. You know you want to make a snapshot. Right. This time it asks you for a name. So if we just said, like, you know, Rev1. Right. And we've got our snapshot. And I can very quickly go back to Publisher and then start doing publisher-y things with it. So if I wanted a text frame and I put filler text in it, and then I took this. Where's my number 1? It's behind it, isn't it? Right, and we turn that on to say push it round it. With a bit of luck, that's what it'll do. Awesome. So we now got some text. And that over the top. So let's put that somewhere. Right, so now we're ready for a second snapshot. Again, just switch to one of the others and click on the plus. Do the Rev2 thing. And OK. And then all you need to do to switch between them is choose it and apply it. And when you've done this, so you've rolled it back at that stage and then go back into Publisher. So it's a lot easier on the desktop, trust me. In terms of changing persona, you are changing persona, but it's Studio Link. So it's easier from Publisher than it is from the other 2 apps, but the other 2 apps have it automatically. So I can't see that you would need to change apps if you were in Designer or Photo. It's Publisher that's the issue. And that is how you do it. Maybe one day they'll add it. I don't know. If you need any more detail than that, then watch the video. I go into the nuances in the video. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, right. We will lose that. No, we don't need to save that, and head off where we were. So there's still reason to watch the video. I explain it in detail in the video, but it's only the desktop one, because at the time that I made that video, we were still waiting for Affinity Publisher for iPad, so there was nothing to moan about. It wasn't there at all. Never mind, can you do the snapshot feature?
Oh, we do have another question.
Go on.
From Patricia, did you make the icons with the red circles and numbers on them?
I did, and you will see them in action in the iPad Secrets guides. So we've put 2 of those out. There was the designer one and the publisher one, and that's where I actually used them. So yes, I did. I created those. And they use all kinds of things like global colours and things, so I can automatically update them. Okay. Freebies, I have a template for you, for your enjoyment in Publisher. I do. It is a travel magazine template. It's got quite a few pages in it. It's completely free. You do need to give them your email address, though, but I've not seen them abuse it. So you will find that at InDesignSkills.com templates, travel-magazine. Now, you might be thinking, just a minute, InDesign secrets. What you will get is a zip file. I think it's hosted on Google Drive. But in the file that you download, you will find two files. One is a standard InDesign file. The other is an IDML file. And an IDML file is a markup language file, which Publisher can read. It can't write to that format, but it can read that format. So you will have access to all of that. It's very nice. It is very nice. There's also a PDF with it where it tells you where you can download the fonts. They're not able to ship the fonts with it. That nice font that looks like the Scrivener icon, where it's a Scotland something. You can get those free. So do check the PDF, get the fonts installed before you open it, and then it should look exactly like that. And then you can customize it. Okay, we are moving on to Obsidian Part 3. We're going to look at the community plugins and a little bit more besides. So this was something that I mentioned in week 1. It's all to do with having a daily page. Now, I'm thinking of notes apps like Evernote let you organise, or they kind of imply that the organisation is within notebooks and within stacks. So everything in relation to Project 1 would be in the notes in the notebook for Project 1. Well, obviously in Obsidian you do have a physical location to put the files, but that wouldn't actually help you too much in the way of navigating through them. So while you can create an index in Evernote, not many people seem to bother. But in Obsidian, I like to navigate by pretending that the files aren't in a folder structure and just navigate between them. So if I wanted to navigate today for the essay that I published about half an hour before the show, I would be looking at going to today's page and it will be linked from there. So it's like a jump off point. So because of that, I personally think the daily page is really important. And I mentioned in part 1 that while you can turn on a daily page, in terms of using it to add content to, the page isn't there until you actually click the calendar. So I mentioned that for me, life's too short, I'm not doing that. I want all of the days for the entire year available for me, which I mentioned to Mike, and that was when he uttered another one of his infamous lines, but I don't use it every day. I should have a sound effect of complete abject horror, shouldn't I? I soon put him right. But because of that, I went through a long and grueling process for how to make it easier for all the other years. So that's what I'm going to do. So, first week we downloaded and installed. Let me know if you're following along. Last time we were looking at the interface and the core plugins. So some of these plugins are enabled by default. Others are available, but they're not enabled by default. I'm not quite sure what criteria they use for making that determination. I honestly don't know. I wish it could make more sense. For example, the canvas is turned on. I'm not sure if the graph is turned on. It's just quite strange what's turned on and what's not. So that's why we went through it last week in terms of the core plugins. What we're going to do this week is extend that into the community plugins, which is pretty much what I've got installed. So I'll show you what I've got installed, and then I will talk you through how I do this, making sure that every page for every day of the year is available. Okay, throw your questions in as we go along, and let me know how you're going on with it. Right, where is Obsidian? I definitely had it open, but where are you? And there's another one of you as well, isn't there? There we go, Demo Vault. Right, this is where we were. So I'm contemplating how on earth I'm going to get to show you both, but we will. So I'm going to close down some stuff on my side so they look the same. There you go, that'll do. They look almost the same. Right, bringing this one on. So this one is mine. You can see I have my Pomodoro running the entire time. And I've got the calendar showing as well. And I've got other stuff in there. But I'm showing you this because when I go into my preferences in there, you can see in here, last week we looked at the core plugins and what was turned on. So I said I had no need for an audio recorder, but obviously I want my backlinks and the canvas and the palette and all of the other things. I don't have the daily notes turned on in here because I have something else controlling them. So if you just want basic daily notes, you could turn that on in here. But what we're looking at today is the community plugins. So when I go to community plugins, I have lots of community plugins installed. Over on the left-hand side, you have core plugins and they're all listed. And these are the configuration options for all of the core plugins that I've got installed. Underneath that, we have the community plugins, and here are the ones. These are the configuration options for those. But yours will not look like that unless you have already turned on support for them. So don't expect yours to look like that until we get that far. But I'm just going to show you here. It gives you a summary and tells me you've got 12 installed, and I can check for updates. And I would expect at least one update. There we go. We've got 2 updates there. So that's what it looks like when you come to update these. It's very integrated. Literally all I need to do is update and update. Personally, if I've updated, I would probably restart Obsidian. But I'm not going to do that at the moment because we're going to go in from my vault, which is that one, into this one, which is the demo vault. So what you're going to see in here is slightly different because this is really basic. Just to get you up to speed, if you weren't with us or whatever, we have in Obsidian the main area in the middle, which can have multiple files open. On the left-hand side, we have an area where you can put multiple things. But you will always see the files in there unless you move them. You can search in there. So we did a search last week and it remembered that. You can star files to make them favourites. And we actually added a scratch pad. And I said I liked in Rome the fact it had a sidebar so much that I replicated it in Obsidian. So I add to that random notes that I make during the day. So if I'm like, I just need to make a note of that, I'm weaning myself off post-it notes. So I would tend to put them in here. But you can also put in here things that you're working on this week or anything else you want. That is just a page. If I take it out of there and put it in here, it's just a page. But you can take a page and put it up here and it becomes more like a sidebar. What else did we have in there? Oh, we got this down the side, which is access to certain things like creating canvases and other controls. This will have extra icons added as you install extra plugins. And on this side, we made it that we had the outline, we had tags, we had inbound links and outbound links. So these can be turned off if you're not interested in that at all. If you want to focus just on an open file, you can do that. I'll leave them turned on so you've got some idea of where we are in here. And in the files, we built a parastructure. That's not necessary. You don't even have to have the files turned on. You can pretend it's Rome if you want. And how you would do that, you would go in here to the core plugins and it's files. See the files and folders in your vault, but you don't have to if you don't want. Now I do because I like to organise them. And I like to treat the entire Obsidian vault, which is just a folder, I like to treat it as I could take it from Obsidian and I could use a different app tomorrow. So if I turned off the files and a year from now I decided to move to another app, the files would be in an almighty mess. So I don't do that. And in my weekly review, one of the things I do is go through the inbox and put stuff where it needs to be. But we are going to start looking at community plugins. And you'll notice in here, while we have core plugins and they're listed, we have nothing down here, which in my vault is where they were listed. So we need to go to community plugins here. And if you are new to this, you will probably be horrified, because it's quite a warning, and it's telling you that community plugins are like any other software that you install. They could cause problems. So what they do to try and make sure that these plugins are secure is that they do an initial code review, and that's done by the team who make Obsidian. And they then appear for installation in your version of Obsidian. You can see the code yourself because it's open source. A lot of these have a peer audit. So other people in the community, I think if somebody put something out that had nefarious intent, the community would find it within seconds, put it like that. And there is a report mechanism if it's doing something that it shouldn't be doing. Now, it's telling you all of that before it then says, would you like to exit this restricted mode so you can use the community plugins? It does say make backups of your data, etc., which my data is backed up every 10 minutes. But it's not that big. The data is 14 meg. So I have Carbon Copy Cloner back it up every 10 minutes. I would never lose more than 10 minutes work. So I had no concerns whatsoever when it came to turning on the community plugins. Your mileage may vary. You can use it without. You can use all of the core plugins, but some of the stuff that you can do with the community plugins is nothing short of spectacular. So you'd be missing out if you didn't. So I'm going to turn on community plugins, and then it looks like that. If you change your mind, that's what the first option's for. So you can turn on restricted mode and it goes back. I'm going to turn it back on. Right. Then you have the option to browse the community space to find these plugins. And it's telling you that at the moment you've got none installed. Then there's this debug startup time. So if when you come to start your Vault, it seems to be taking longer than you would like, then you can debug it by seeing how long it's actually taking. If it was taking longer than I expected, it would probably be the Mac, which was probably multiplying files behind my back. That's what I'd imagine it was doing. Okay, so we're going to browse some of the community plugins. I actually have installed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But I don't, one's an admin one, and I don't really use 2 or 3 of them. So I'm going to start off with one that I think is important. So you can see that at the moment, you've got 829 plugins available. So what kind of thing do people make for you to extend Obsidian? Now, this is one of the biggest differences between Obsidian and other note-taking apps. You know, when Evernote puts something out, it's either there or it's not. Now, sometimes a feature is there, but you have to pay more to get access to it. So they added the ability to have to-dos and a daily note or something, a home note. But you only get certain things if you are on the pro level. Beneath that, there's the personal level, and then there's a free version. And there's the one that I'm on, which is a grandfathered thing. So if the features are available in a different app, it doesn't mean you automatically get them. It's not a case of downloading something and installing it, and now you've got that feature, but it is in Obsidian. So it's done in this way because not everybody is going to want all the same features. So, for instance, some people use a very, very, very popular drawing feature called Excalidraw. And Excalidraw, let's bring that back, is that one there. You can see it's had almost 600,000 downloads. I don't draw in Obsidian. Simple as that. If I want to use Apple Pencil, I'll be in GoodNotes. I don't want to put stuff in my Vault that increases the size of it exponentially because, you know, after this week. And I don't really have the need for that. It starts to look messy to me, but other people absolutely love it. So rather than have my Obsidian slow down because that's built in, you know, I'm going to wait for it to load, I don't even install it. But if you want to draw in it, that's probably going to be one of the first things that you install. So it's so you have a choice. Obsidian, anybody's Obsidian. You can't really go from one person's Obsidian to another and be instantly up to speed with what's where. and what's installed and what's not, even within separate vaults. Remember, what we're looking at here is my demo vault. This is not my real vault. That has completely different things in it. So it's on a per vault basis, and I like that. Other people may prefer the Evernote approach where, you know, this is the features you've got and that's it. You want more, pay more. If you want less, pay less. I much prefer this. So let's start off with one of these. One of the ones that I find most useful is this calendar one. So it says it's a simple calendar widget for Obsidian. So all I need to do is click on it. That gives me the details on the right hand side. And there's the version number, there's how many people have got it installed. Now you might be thinking, well, yeah, do I just install everything that everybody else has got? The count, as far as I'm concerned, is like, if 2 people have installed it, I'm going to be a bit suspicious. But if 500,000 have installed it and no one's complaining about it, then I would imagine it's safe to install. So I use the number from that perspective. You've got the author's name, you've got the repository which is on GitHub, which means if you are suspicious about it and you want to check it first, you can do that. You can go to GitHub and you will actually find the code that is making this happen. Then there's the last time it was updated, which is a bit on the concerning side, isn't it? 2 years ago, but you know, if it's not broken. You then get the option to install it. Now, if I was to share this with you and say this is the calendar one I'm talking about, then I can click the copy share link. It's copied it to the clipboard. I can go across to the chat and paste it in. And if you've got Obsidian installed, hopefully you'll be able to see that link. And then you will be seeing what I am seeing. Then you've got an ability to donate. Underneath that, you've got like a usage guide. So it's a plugin for Obsidian. It creates a simple calendar view. And it's used for both visualizing the week or the month and navigating the daily notes. So it tells you how to use it and it tells you what features it's got and the different settings. So if you want it to start on a Sunday, you can do that. You want it to start on a Monday, you can do that. It has words per dot, which I'll show you, but basically it lets you glance at your... Can we see mine? Yes, let's bring mine on and then you can see it. Because this is live, this is a real vault. Right, that's January for me. Can we move this down a bit? And you can see Monday, I've got more dots than the other days. So that's telling me if one dot is 250 words, there's a lot of words on that page. And that's because, if you remember, the week at MacBites headquarters, not just for show, you know, it's going to come relevant now. Monday, I decided I was going to deep dive how to take smart notes. If I can remember that I made a lot of notes and I made them on the daily page and I don't know what date it was, I can glance at that and I can tell you, oh yeah, it's Monday the 23rd, because there's a lot more notes on that day than any of the others. So that's what the dots are. You can also see here that I have the weeks showing, because all the communications we send, all the emails that we send out, are done by week. They're done by week number. So it's very handy for me to see the week number. But until I started doing that, I had no need for the week number. But now I do. So this is the calendar that we're talking about. You can navigate backwards and forwards here. So you can see December, not bad, Christmas Day. Yeah, but I was busy, I was working. So as you go back, you can see, you know, the 4th of November was busier than other days. And then you can hit today and it takes you back to this month, and then you can click on the day to open it, which we won't be doing. Right, so that's what we're talking about with this. And it goes into immense detail, right, if you want to change the CSS for it, and it even tells theme creators of cautions, things to be aware of if you're making a theme and you want to theme what the calendar looks like. So there's a whole lot of information in there, right? Whole lot of information. Right, so let's install it. So I will hit install. It tells you it's installing it, and then it says it's successfully installed. And that in here means you get an installed flag next to it, so you don't try installing it twice, no need. It's there. So if I come out of there, we should see that we have the calendar installed here. But notice it's not actually enabled at this point. You do have to toggle this on to actually make it enabled. But we're going to head back because we're going to look for some more to install. So the calendar one, as far as I'm concerned, works really well with the periodic notes. So I'm going to type in there, periodic notes. You can see it's from the same developer. Fewer people are using this though, a lot. But this one is going to allow you to create and manage all of your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly and yearly notes. So again, there's all this information, right? There it all is. So let's install that. And I will take that share link in case you want that one as well. And we got 2 of them installed. Right, I'm going to install one. What we got that's really easy. Not much, to be honest. So let's stick with the 2 we've got and show you how they actually work. Before I do that, have we got any questions?
There's a couple of questions. One's from Carol. Are you using Obsidian for Ship 30?
Yes. How I do that is, and why I do that, I loathe writing in Notion. The worst thing about writing in Notion, apart from the fact it eats your words every now and then, is there's no word count. So what I do is I've built up a page that links to everything in Obsidian. And I have a page per thing, per essay in there. So let's have a look if we can actually see it. Let's have a look at the index. Yep, I don't see why we can't see that. Right, so what it looks like is this was today's. So I love the fact in here when I'm typing it up, what I've got in here, like the quote and the fact that it's in bold, everything that you see there ripples through to TypeShare. So what I do with it is I write it in here. You can see where it is physically at the top. It's the final post for 2023-01 and it's today. I write it in here, 219 words, and then I hand Mike an iPad and he proofreads it. So if there's any mistakes, it's Mike's fault. Just thought I'd mention that, Mike. Oh, I'm getting glared at. That was a hard stare like Paddington, Mike. What I've got at the bottom is 2 linked mentions. Now, we've not looked at smart notes and backlinks and all of that yet, but let's use this as an example. Right. There's nowhere on this page that it tells me what date that was written. If you think about how you would work in a normal notebook, you know, from a paper notebook through to Evernote and beyond, you'd probably put a date at the top. I don't need to because this essay is linked to from my daily page. So that's what the bottom one is. That is telling me that was done on the 27th. And this one, so we've got 2 different pages there where this essay is mentioned. This one is the daily page, and this one is my index page for Ship 30. So if I'm thinking, what did I write yesterday? I've got no recollection whatsoever. Then I would go to my index page, and this is my index page. So on here I have everything. This at the top with the line next to it is actually being pulled from a separate file, which is why there is a link next to it. I will explain all of this down the line, but it's not for today. But these are the cohorts that I've done. So this is the latest one. These are some of the previous ones, and you can see a preview as I hover. Then I've got cohort resources. So did you opt in and all of this, just in case I need them. I've got a direct link to the templates on TypeShare, and I've got research that I'm doing. Like I've got an idea inserting special characters. I did that one. Then I've got the live sessions. So the live session, I'm behind with the live sessions because there's another one there. There's one I've done and there's another one today. So the live sessions are done. We've got 2 left. Wow, how did that happen? And then these are all the essays that I've done. So obviously there's today's, but that was yesterday's. There's yesterday's. And again, this links to yesterday's date and it links to my index and it shows me the word count, which is the most important thing to me. So I try to get them written in 25 minutes. So I would start my Pomodoro timer and just start typing. When it's done and Mike's checked it, I copy it out of here and I paste it into Notion because I also track it in Notion. And then I paste it from Notion into TypeShare. Why don't I paste it straight from Obsidian? And it's because TypeShare doesn't seem to like Obsidian. So as long as I paste it into Notion and then out of Notion, it understands it. But what I've got there then is every essay going back to the first one about why I was doing it and what this one is. Oh yes, I saved over £320 by an Affinity Publisher. So there you go. So any other questions on that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
From Patricia, can you give us an overview of why this app is important and which apps are similar or used instead? Because I have quite a few duplicate use apps, thanks in advance.
Okay, why is it important? Standard notes apps without links between notes are becoming fossilized. Now, if it works for you, stick with it. But I always think, go and have a look what's available. That was what got me into Rome. And the first time I looked at Rome, I was like, oh, that's good, that's good. And within a week, it was like, no, that's not going to work. But I was the same with Notion. And so I think if you're going to look at a notes app, at least give it a month. And we're all different. Obsidian is perfect for me right now. But it wasn't perfect at all about 18 months ago when I looked at it. It was like, I can't use that. So back then I was using Rome. So why is it important? It's important because it's popular, because it's free. So it's free and they've guaranteed it will stay free. So you're not going to end up in a situation where your notes are in this app and they've just said a yes and it's going to be £500 a year. She said, looking at Rome. Although it wasn't, was it? It was £15 a month. So it went from free to £15 a month. And people were horrified. The other way that you would be locked into something is if your notes are in Evernote and you've only ever used version 10, you can only get out 100 notes at a time. I've got 15,000 notes in there. I do not want to get them out 100 at a time. It would take too long. So I feel that anything I put in Rome, I'm going to have to keep paying for it if I want access to it. If I put it in Evernote, one, I'm going to have to keep paying them. But two, if I come to take my data out, you're going to have to take it out in individual chunks of 100 notes. The thing with Obsidian is the notes are just in the file system. If you want to take a note out, take a note out. It's as simple as that. So if we look in here at Documents Local and... where are we in here? Application support. Obsidian. So going to Obsidian. There's the demo vault. There is the demo vault too. And this is my vault. So if I open this up, you can see this one is because I'm testing a plugin. But I have 5 core folders and an inbox. And if we open up this one, you can see they need putting in the right place because they were added. So they need to go in January 2022. But I can do this and it won't break anything. So here in 2023, in January, are all my notes. And these, you can see they've got sizes on them. They're tiny. But these notes are just markdown files. That's it. Some will have some content, some won't. That one just links to the annual index. But you can read it. You don't need Obsidian to read it. So that's why it's important. It's free. It's guaranteed to be free forever. You're not locked into anything. I could literally lift this data and put it into Logseek, which is another type of app, and carry on working with it. I could actually upload it to Rome if I wanted. And I have created, I downloaded my content from Rome and I created an Obsidian Vault for it. So I can actually open up, I don't know where I put it now, because it's not in that folder, is it? Where did I put that? But wherever I put it, I could do that if I wanted to. Now, in terms of other apps that are similar, you kind of have apps that are very prescriptive in what they can do. So GoodNotes, Notability, Evernote, Nimbus Notes, they are all these are the features we are prepared to give you, but they're not extensible. Then you have the ones that are ultimately extensible. Roam can be extended, but it just might not suit you. The mentality of the app might not suit you, and maybe the extensions don't suit you. So it's right for me for right now, but your mileage may vary. So I would say stick with the series until you get to the end, have all your questions, and then see if you think it would work for you. So hopefully that will help. Have we got anything else?
Nope.
Okay, so let's get rid of that and go back to here. So we'd installed 2 plugins, but they weren't live. So what we've got is the fact that they're installed. So you can have a plugin installed and then decide that you're going to put it on hiatus for a while. So the periodic notes one is probably the most important as far as I'm concerned. I don't particularly want to have one folder with all my notes in for like 10 years, because if you've got too much in one folder, macOS chokes for a start. I mean, Windows was as bad. So I like to have it broken up. So you've seen that mine is neatly broken up, and they are actually called periodic notes. So these are the periodic notes. I added notes from 2017. The 22nd of February. I have no idea what it is, so I'm going to leave it alone. But there's just one note from that year. But you can see that I've created the folders for them to live in if I add more. Then there's nothing until 2020. And I've clearly backfilled a few notes in here, the 25th and the 29th. There's only 2, because I wasn't using this app back then. But this is the structure that I like to have with my notes. You can see 2021, again, I wasn't using this app. I didn't start using it until March last year. But as I've worked around my desk, my old notebooks, or I've just found something on my computer and it's dated, I will go in here and I'll create a daily page and I'll add it to it. And that is important so you can find stuff. Now, if we go to 2022, you will see there's all sorts in there. The whole of December. There is a page for every single day. And that's the daily note. It acts as a jump-off point or an anchor point where everything has context. Every note that's on the daily page has the context of this was created on this page. On this day, you did that. So I find the daily note important, but it doesn't necessarily create this structure for you automatically. And that's the thing that I'm going to show you as the last item today. But at the moment, we need to enable them. So let's enable the periodic notes. Now that instantly adds the community plugins to the left-hand side and the periodic notes, which are the options, which you should be able to get to from the cog or by clicking on here. They should both do exactly the same thing. Right. So it's saying you need to enable them. So quickly create, navigate daily, weekly, monthly notes, but also quarterly and yearly if you want. So let's turn on the daily notes. So the first thing it wants is the format. So it's saying your current syntax looks like this. So it's the year dash the month dash the day. And that's what I want because that is sortable. I know in the States, the reason that the month is in the middle harks back to when computers first appeared and they wanted stuff by month. Obviously in Britain, we don't do that. It's the other way around. But for me, that's the way that I date stuff. So you will find a million files on my system. They won't have dashes in my file names, but it will have the year first, followed by the month, followed by the day. So I call that a sort day. And it's saying that is the format that I will use, and that's absolutely fine. I am fine with that. Right, the next thing is when you create a daily note, do you want to use a template? Do you want it to look like something? So my daily note, when I actually add it, has navigation forward and backwards, and it has like fixed content. But actually, I don't want that automatically because most of my pages won't be created in here anyway. So I don't put anything in there, but again, your mileage may vary. Then there's the notes folder. So new daily notes will be placed here. So where exactly do you want that? Now, it isn't bright enough to put them in the right month. So I need to have somewhere that it's going to put them that is near enough. And if they're not in the right place, then I can manually put them in the right place if I need to. So within the periodic notes, I think I just put them in the root of the periodic notes. So let me check that. Where did I put them? I did. So in here, you can see I don't have anywhere to put them at the moment. So what I did in mine was I added a folder and I called it 0 periodic notes. So it goes to the top and basically, I called it periodic notes. Initially, I called it daily notes, but I'm going to have months and weeks and quarters. So periodic notes is probably better. So I'm going back in here and I'm going to say, if I create a new note and there's nowhere else for it to go, then this is where I want you to put it. And there is the periodic notes. And then you turn on the weekly and you do the same. So what format do you want for the weekly notes? And that's exactly what I want. And again, you can use a template if you need to. And this is where you're going to put it if you don't have it anywhere else. So this is the default. So again, just put it in the periodic notes. And rinse and repeat for all of these. You don't need all of them if you don't want, but I do have them all turned on. So all I'm doing is specifying if they're nowhere else, put them in there, including the year in there. And that is all sorted out now. That's it. So we can dismiss that, and that is all configured. So all I've done is say to it, when there's a daily note, put it in there, put it in there. That's it. But how do we create the daily notes? Well, if we go back to the community plugins, we've also got this calendar view that we've not enabled yet. So yeah, let's enable the calendar view and go into the preferences for that. So this is where you've got your words per dot that I've explained. Where do you want the week to start? And I want it on a Monday, so it's going from the local locale. This is, do you want to have to confirm before you create a new note? Now, some people may decide that that is a good idea to have that turned on. It gets annoying really fast. So I don't have that turned on. But you did see that I do have turned on show the week number. So I might as well leave that the same. And this here is to override if you need to, which I don't. So that one was really simple. All I did was flick these two over. And that was only because I don't want to be prompted the whole of the time, to create a new note, are you sure? Are you sure? Right. Okay. Doesn't look like it's done anything, but we will open this up and we will go into here, and there is the pretty calendar like I've got. It's got the week numbers showing and it's got the months, but you'll notice that the days themselves, there's no dots. There is one that's purple, your accent colour, which is today, but there's no dots. But we said if I create something, put it in the periodic notes folder, date it with year first dash month dash day, put it in that folder, and put a dot over here so I know it exists. So if I click on that, that's exactly what it does. So this is the 1st of January 2023. Let's put it in the folder. We're all good to go. You see at the bottom, there's no backlinks mentioned yet because I've not done anything like that, and that's it. And I've got my dot, and I can go to the 2nd and it creates the 2nd, and I can go to the 19th and it creates the 19th. And they're all building up beautifully over here and making an unholy mess while they're doing it. Because if you can imagine having 366 entries this year, it's a leap year, it would be very difficult to navigate, which is why with mine, I would like it more organised than that. Now you've seen it organised in the folder. So this is the folder that's got the years in. What that looks like actually in Obsidian is that. So in Obsidian, my Obsidian, I've got my inbox, I've got my periodic notes, I've got my para set up, and I've got this project, this demo thing. And in here, if we go to 2022, I've got that structure. So it's way easier for me, way easier. So what you need to do, in my opinion, is to create something like that. You could do it all by hand. Gets old fast. Did I mention gets old fast? So My alternative involved trying to work out a way that I could do this easily, and it was actually more difficult than I was anticipating. I initially thought this is going to be fairly straightforward, but I hit quite a few roadblocks along the way. But I've done the work now, and I know it works, so I can share it with you. So what I'll show you in here is we don't need these things. So these in here, we'll grab the 3 of them and delete. Oh, it's going to delete them one at a time, crying out loud. I'm going to say don't ask again, just delete. Right, they've gone. So we have the plugin set up, we have the location set up, but what's the fastest way to get a year's worth in there? It's like the difference between buying a paper diary, which already has a page for everything, which means you can quickly flick to the 19th of May and make a note that it's my birthday. But if you've got a bullet journal and you're designing these beautiful pages week by week, where do you put something like that? You're going to need a future log. And then every week when you make your pages, you're going to have to compare with your future log what needs to be copied into the day. So you may love doing that, in which case carry on doing it. Me, no. I want to be able to go to a set day and know that when that day comes round, I'm going to click on that page and anything that I need to be aware of is right in front of me. So I personally didn't want to do what Mike was doing, which was just clicking on these days as and when he used it. I wanted the days there. You'd think it was easy. It was not easy. So the first thing I realised I was going to need was I was going to need 366 files. That wasn't too difficult because all I actually needed to do for that, let's open up Sublime Text. Right. All I needed to do was save a file. So if I save that file, it's thinking about it, and I put it on the desktop, it doesn't matter what that file is called. So I'm going to call it XXXX. But it's going to be a markdown file. So I put MD at the end. And to make it a little bit easier, if I go in there and I say that's a year of daily pages, it's in a folder as well. So I do that. Simple as that. I've got one file. Then I close down my text editor. Who wants to have a guess what I do next with that? I need 366 of them. Not even joking here. Copy, paste. Now I've got 2. Command and A, Command and C, Command and V. Now I've got 4. And so forth. Command and A, Command and C, Command and V. And I just keep going. By doing it where I copy everything, I am shortcutting how long it's going to take, but it's still going to take a certain amount of time until I have got 366 of them. You only need to do this once, but this was what I did. So I ended up with 366 of them. Let's pretend I've got 366 of them. The next thing I needed was I'm going to have to rename those files. I don't want to rename them manually either. Now you can, in here, on the Mac, you have the ability to rename files. You can do it in quite a few ways. It's actually reasonable. You can add text, you can do a format. So I want to do a format, for example, where the name starts at, and I want this, do you want the name and the counter? Do you want the name and a date? You could do something with that. But it's very manual, and once you've done it, you can't save it. So that wasn't the way for me. What I did need was an app that could rename files. So if you're making a note here of all that I'm saying, you'll need to know that what I needed to do everything I'm going to do was I needed a text editor to make the first file. I then needed Google Sheets. I then used a Better Finder rename, and I used BB Edit. And this was what I did. So these are my 360 odd files. The next thing I did was create a spreadsheet. So here is my spreadsheet. And I put in the first date, I put in the second, and I pulled down. So I literally, let's do it so you can see it. I went in there, I pasted those, I grabbed the corner and I pulled all the way down to the end of the year. Which, fingers crossed, is 366. Getting there. Oh, there's 365 in there. Is this year not a leap year? Oh, it's not, is it? It's next year that's a leap year. I've scratched that. This year, not a leap year. So, 365. That was what I did. The next thing I did was just copy all of that. And then I went into a text editor. You can use free text editors. You don't have to use this one. And I pasted those names in. And then I saved that. This is my instruction. So I saved that as dates for 2023. That's a text file, and I would put that on the desktop. At that point, you don't need your text editor and you don't need your spreadsheet, so you can get rid of that. Right, so here's my instructions for renaming it, and here's my files. Now, you only again need to do this once because I came across a problem, which was I need to do two types of find and replace. One is naming the files. The second is what do I do with the contents inside the files. So this work that you're looking at here was something that I did once. What I ended up with was, there's my Obsidian folder. Right, this is what we're going to be working with now. So I have got this, which was perfect. I had weeks, which is in folder 0. And these are my weeks. These are all my weeks. They're all blank, but they're all my weeks. And if you look at the format here, they are 2023 as well. I've got January all the way through to December. And I've got an annual index as well. So if I open that up, you can see I've got an annual index. The annual index is going to cause a problem because it says 2023 and renaming the file won't rename the contents. It will not touch the contents. That was when I hit a brick wall. But we don't like brick walls. We find solutions. So I ended up creating this. This is a zip file that now all I need is that. I only need that zip file. I do not need to go through the rigmarole of creating 365 or 366 files. They're in that folder. They're in that zip file. And I don't need to rename them with a spreadsheet either. I found a whole easier way. It's fabulous. So here's what I need to do. So let's say I'm creating to 2025. I am going to open up the zip file. It is going to create a folder when it finally does it. Do you need another push? Go on, you know you want to do it. Are you actually doing it? You are. Awesome. There it is. Right, so it's created a folder, and this is a generic thing. This does never need to be changed. What happens is when I generate this, that's when I start making changes. So let's have a look what we've got in it. We have got the weeks, and they are YY, and then the week number. And when we look at the dates, they also are YY. So obviously I can't just pick this lot up and dump it in Obsidian. They need to be renamed, but they're already in the right folders. And I've got my annual index, which says 2023. We need to deal with that, obviously. What it should say, so if I open this up, I need to update this. This was obviously a work in progress at one point. What I would want that to say is I don't want to be specific. I want it to say that. Which still isn't right, obviously, but it will be shortly. Right, so that's what I've got. What on earth do I do with that to fix it? This is what I do. I open up a Better Find a Rename. And it has a think about it. I think I'm upsetting it tonight. Right, and in here I have a preset, which is rename YY to year. So if I load that in, what it's going to say is, okay, in the category of text, replace the text at the beginning. And I want you to replace Y with 2023. Only in this case, it's not. It's 2025. Right. Rename what? Everything. So if I go back a level, I may be able to just drop that in. It will read inside it. And I'm looking at that and thinking, replace the text at the beginning, not really going to work, is it? Just replace text. Because if I don't, then that won't work. And I want you to replace Y with 2025. And that way, the annual index will be renamed. So what this is showing you is what they're currently called and what they will be called. And as I scroll through, there's 430 of them that will be renamed. So we've got the annual one, we've got the monthly one here, we've got every single day. And it's going to take seconds to create the entire year. So let's perform the renames. It's done. So now we have 2025. So if we come out of there, it doesn't rename the one that I actually put in there, but all of these in here are now named correctly. Isn't that fabulous? But I still had a problem, which was, I'll demonstrate it with this annual index. It's got the right name. That's not a problem at all. But the text inside it doesn't get renamed because Better Find a Rename is for renaming the files, not the contents of the files. Oh no. Right, but there is a way to do that. So how we do that? I'm using BB Edit because it's got nice search and replace. So in the search option in here, I need to multi-file search. I don't just want it to look at one file, I want it to look at preferably hundreds of files. So I need to tell it where it's searching to start with. So where are you searching? So, how on earth did I add it from here? Did I say other and then load it in? Or didn't it like that? It's sort of working in almost the right way. So let's go to the desktop and... where did I have this? Oh, it's in there. So that's where we'll go. Right. I'm pointing it to this folder, which is all of this. So I want it to open the 2025 folder. Right? So that's where it's going to search for. What do you want it to search for? I want it to search inside the files for any reference to Y, and I want you to change it to 2025. Save me doing the job. And replace all. Confirm I want it to save them. Yes, I do. And off it's toddled. So if I go in here now, they are now saying 2025. And it wouldn't matter if it had to go through every single file in the folder. It doesn't matter. So the renaming has to do two things. The first thing it's renaming is the files. The second thing it's renaming is the content of the files. And it's doing that with a text-based search and replace. So it's now just a simple two-step process. All I need to do is to go into there and unzip that. That will create a folder called YYYY. The next step would be to say what year that actually is. So 2026. In there, they are not correctly named. They've got the Ys. You rename those with a Better Find a Rename, and you drill down into the files with a text editor that can search multiple files all at once. Once you've done that, so 2025 is where we're at, that is correct. All I then need to do is put it in the right place. So over here, this is actually my Obsidian. This is Mission Control, my Obsidian. I don't have 2025 in there, but what I will do is drag and drop that into it. And now I have 2025 in there. Right, let's have a look at my Obsidian. Now, if you tried this with certain apps, it would probably have a fit. But straight away, there's my 2025. And it's loading in, as you can see. It's reading them in as it's going. They are all now in there. And if I do this, there's my index. And these are clickable. So if we actually look at that, it's going to look for a page called 2025-01, which is January. And there it is. That needs updating, but apart from that, that is all working. So that's my Obsidian. Let's try and get it in our other Obsidian. Demo Vault. Bring that back. So we have the periodic notes and we have 2025 in here. We've also got 2023 and 2024. So what we could do is just take the lot. Take the whole of those, put those in the periodic notes. Couldn't be easier. Job is done. So it takes a little bit of time to update, have a think about it. What I would probably do is do it outside of here. Is that loading in? Have I upset it? Surely not. Surely not. Let's grab it and try. No, I know. I didn't put it in there, did I? No, I'm being naughty. Right, what I did was, I did it in the Finder. So in the Finder, we need to go and find the demo one, which is in Obsidian, and I think it's Demo Vault. There we go. And there's our periodic notes, and that's where they need to go. So we'll drag all of those into there. And it's reading them in. So it will automatically update in Obsidian as it goes in. So 2023 is there and so forth. Look what happened even before it's finished to the calendar. They all now have dots on them. So technically, I can go to any one of these and I will find my date. And it's already there. So the reason that I do that, so let's go into February. February's already there as well. It's having to think about it. I don't know why the other half is missing. Come on, don't show me up. Don't show me up. Good grief, why is that doing that? Because it is there. The whole of February is there, trust me. There we go. Right. So this is what I do. I think, 14th of February, Valentine's Day. So, Valentine's Day. Right. And then probably put like, well, no, in the post the week before. So put on the 6th by Valentine's card. And that allows me to have, as soon as I get to that day, that's going to be there. And if it's something I don't want to forget, then I would also bold and highlight it like that. And then when I come to that particular day, that's there. I would then put the rest of my content on that day, but that is how I do that. So instead of having notebooks and stacks and folders and all kinds of stuff, I tend to use the daily page as a navigation aid. And so I will navigate by the date. And I also put notes on those kind of pages, which we'll see next time. But I wanted to get to the point where here we could put in as many years as you want. You can work backwards, you can work forwards, doesn't matter. So if somebody's got a silver wedding in 2025, good grief, they'd have been married millennium, wouldn't they? That's scary. You can put that in there because the pages already exist. Now, you probably don't want to do that up here, moving backwards and forwards, but there's nothing to stop you going in here. If it was our anniversary, it would be the 12th of April. So I would put something in there. So that's actually, yeah, let's put anniversary. Not that I'm likely to forget that. And that is how that works. So, any questions on that? Well, I've still got it open.
There's a few questions.
Where you go, Mike.
General questions on Obsidian.
Okay.
From Patricia. Do you have a separate calendar scheduling planning app, or is Obsidian calendar app sufficient for sharing with Mike?
Oh, good grief, no. Obsidian is very personal. So I treat the daily pages in here as just like a note with the date at the top. I have Google Calendar, and I share Google Calendar. I share several calendars with Mike. I don't think we could organise anything if we didn't have Google Calendar, could we?
No.
I mean, we use it for obvious things like, has Mike got a webinar and are we doing after hours? But back in the days when we used to go out, going back a bit now, aren't we? Before COVID, when we had a hugely busy social schedule, we would not only put the event that we were going to, so Burns Night Supper, we would actually put what we'd ordered in there as well, and we'd have links to the emails. It was so funny because we went to this event and we're sat at the table, and they hadn't put on the name cards what you'd ordered. But that was fine. Mike flicked his iPhone open, looked at it and said, "Oh, beef." I said, "That's fine." Everybody else at the table, because we were going to so many different events, they hadn't got a clue what they'd ordered. And it was a fiasco because no one had a list. So they were bringing food out and just shouting who's ordered the trout. And no one could remember what they'd ordered. So we take our calendars to that level, putting all kinds of stuff in it. But don't forget, that was what enabled me in Raycast to put in my schedule and it come up with all of the stuff thus. So, no, I don't use it instead. I use it as well as. But because I can put links into Google Calendar events, I could put a link to the calendar event, and I could actually put a link to the Obsidian page in the calendar if I wanted to. But I don't really do that. I would do it. I might put a link to the calendar event, but I wouldn't do it the other way around. But no, to me, they're two totally separate things. What else have we got?
Which one did you do the linking to pictures? Because Patricia said, does it allow attachments of screenshots or photos?
It does allow. That's the insightful question, isn't it? I've actually written a blog post. I haven't published it yet, but it's written about how I do that for a particular reason. So let's say that what I wanted to do was take a screenshot of that and have it put in there. Right, there's a couple of ways that I can do that, but as long as I can get the screen cap, so I'm going to take the screen cap this way. Right, that's the screen cap. That is snappy. No, it's not. It's screen float, just floating that. It has a proxy icon at the bottom, so I can grab it and I can just drop it in there. And now, forget how I took that, but that is in there. It's that simple. It doesn't matter what kind of image it is. So I downloaded that thumbnail. Remember the thumbnail that I downloaded in my video? Let's go in here and put that up there. So I want to put the screenshot in, drag, drop, it's in there. Now, this text that it's put in is showing you the name of the file. So that said the word anniversary, and then there is screenshot of Finder and when it was taken. Right, it is that simple. But where did it put them? Where are those files? Where do they exist? Well, last week we said if I don't tell you where to put it in the inbox. So now I've got a PNG and another image, a JPEG. Here's the problem with that. If I decide I don't want that in there anymore, I don't need that, then all I need to do is to delete the text, and I've deleted it. So that image, I don't need it anymore. But look what happened in the demo vault. The image is still there. You're deleting a reference to it, you are not deleting the image. So if you have one image and you want it in two places, that's awesome, you only have to add it once. But if you then delete it, you've got a manual job organising it. So that is not actually what I do. So I will publish this blog post this week, but the essence of it is this. If I wanted to take a screen cap of that, and I wanted it in my vault quickly, this is what I would do instead. Instead of taking the screenshot, either using the macOS stuff, I would use a different app. I would use Cloud App. So how I would do it, you can see I've still got the ability to take any kind of screenshot. Can press this spacebar for that. And I click on there and I've taken the screenshot. But where is the screenshot? Well, it uploaded it automatically to the cloud because it's Cloud App. It automatically uploaded it. And it put the URL of that image on my clipboard. That's the URL of the image. But you don't want that in your notes because it's not pretty. But what you do is you put an exclamation mark, and I've got this on a shortcut, but I'll do it by hand. I would put an open square bracket and a closed square bracket. I would put a round bracket and a closed round bracket, and I would paste that URL in the round brackets, like that. And it pulls that image in from the cloud. That is not physically in my vault. And so over here, I could take, which is which? This one that I just deleted, right, is still there, obviously, but now I'm going to delete it. This was the one that's on that page, but the other one, not there at all. That's not the page, is it? Good grief, what page are we on? Whoa, where am I? You know, lost with my pages. Where am I? There. Anniversary, that's why. Right, so this one is coming in from the cloud. The benefit to you of that is when it comes to syncing, you don't need to sync the images. So your vault is tiny. My vault is 14 meg, and that includes duplicates and backups. It's the whole thing. When I zip it, it's about 3 meg, and I've got nearly 2,000 notes in it. It's tiny because there are no images in it whatsoever. Other benefit, when it synchronises device to device to device, it takes seconds because there's no images, there's no attachments to sync, which means when it gets to my phone or it gets to my iPad, it's not taking up any space. I know other people have got vaults of 5 and 8 gig. It takes the best part of a week to synchronise. And even then, the device is complaining that it doesn't have enough storage. So why are you storing the images in it anyway? They can live in the cloud, which is what I do. So the blog post explains all of that, but that is what you do. What else have we got?
Do you use the Obsidian canvas, and is it a separate download or a plugin?
The canvas is a core plugin. Yes, I do use it. I'm going to show you that in an upcoming episode, but I will quickly show it you here. You need to go into here and you need to go to core plugins. But if you already had Obsidian installed and you've got now a version that supports Canvas, which is this bit here, it will automatically be available. If you are installing it new, it will automatically be available. So the Canvas is going to be automatically available for you. The settings allow you to decide what you do with the mouse and whether you show the menu or not, whether you show the label or not, and if you want it snapping to the grid or not. But in essence, a canvas allows you to take notes and put them on a virtual desktop. So if you go to File, or do you? Hang on. No, I know what you do. We do this, Canvas, create a new canvas, and that's it. I've got a new canvas called Untitled. So if I call that Demo Canvas, what you can do with it is start dragging and dropping and putting stuff on it. So if I wanted my scratch pad note on there, I could bring that in. This is the note that we see up there, and it's the contents of that note. But now it's on a canvas. So if we add the hello note and anything else we want to add. Right, now at the moment this is like overlaying each other. But if I zoom out, I can start moving these around. So I could line them up. You see they're all snapping in place. You can even, you can add a note from the vault, which is what we've just done. You can add media from the vault. So if you do that, it will show you that that is in there. So we can add that in, put that over there like that. You can even add cards in and put stuff on them later. So maybe like next week I'm looking to demonstrate the canvas and I want to demonstrate something else as well. So do another one. Drag to add a card. Right, let's put that under there. Where's my canvas text gone? I definitely put the word canvas in there. Right, canvas. And this one, what else could we do? The graph view. And the beauty of this is you can then virtually mind map with it. So if I've got these 2 notes to myself that at some point I'm going to do these, but I'm going to do the canvas first maybe, then what I can do with these is, you see the little purple dots that appear, top, bottom, left and right? I can grab that and say we'll go over there. And I can grab this and say, oh, we'll go up to one like that one. And I can start creating graphs and charts and all kinds of stuff with it. And as I move these stay linked. So that's what the canvas can do. I've used the canvas to like outline a course or a session, where I'm going to start with this and I'll move on to that. And then you can think, oh, that's going to make the first half too long. So I'll move this bit to the second half and just move things around. So we will look at that properly. It's not something that you need to install. It comes with it. What else have we got, Mike?
From Patience, can you format your date to include the day of the week? I use the built-in core option of creating a daily note, and I've have it put the weekday in. I like that feature.
Mine does look like that, but I don't have it in the file. I don't want it in the file name. Let me show you. I'm on my annual index for 2025, aren't I? Let me show you what a daily thing looks like. What have we got? Yeah, mine sort of looks like that. So if I were to go into today, so let's go here. Mine looks like that. So I automatically have it put Thursday on the page. I know this is the 27th and stuff, but I've copied this from today. Let's put it on the right day, woman. So it looks like that. So I have the day here, and how it does that is using the template feature, which we've not looked at yet. But can I open that? Let's have a look. Daily note. There it is. That's what it looks like. So mine is like that. I think I'd need to install Templater to make that work. But it's getting the day from that. So as long as I insert this on today's date. So after midnight, the first thing I do is when I open the next day, I insert this. And these codes get changed for... This one would be the title of the file, and this one would be the day. I'll show you this one, I'll show you Templater, but that's what I do. If you want it to have the day, then yes, you can do that. I just don't have it in the file, not in the file name. What else have we got?
From Patricia, what calendar app best allows for adding Zoom links, subscribing to other people's calendars, and adding client deadlines?
There's a difference between the client with a calendar app and a calendar service. So a calendar app would be something like Apple Calendar, Microsoft Outlook, BusyCal, Fantastical. Those would be calendar apps. But the calendar service, half of that is, you need support for the features in the app, and you need support for the features in the service that you use. So most services are pretty forgiving, aren't they? But we left iCloud calendars. Best thing we ever did. It was fabulous when we left. We used it for years, and I must admit it was hairy scary leaving. But in 2018 we moved to Google Calendar. Google Calendar is about as vanilla as you will get. It's probably the most compatible. So our calendars are on Google. But when it comes to using them, I've got access to them all over the place. So I've got BusyCal. I do have Fantastical, but it's an old version. Even this thing at the top here that's got the date on it with all the time zones. You see the dots. The dots are things that you have there. And if I double clicked it, it would open up what my appointments were. So that's really why we moved to Google Calendar. We wanted the maximum compatibility everywhere. I mean, you have a lot of limitations on when you're on Microsoft Calendar stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
What's that called? Is it Outlook now?
Outlook, yeah.
No, not the app, the actual where the calendars are.
Oh, 365.
Yeah. Mike doesn't have as many features as we've got on Google Calendar. So what we use is, I would use it in a browser. So I would log into Google Calendar in a browser. That's perfectly usable. But when I want to schedule like the next 8 episodes of After Hours, I'm looking to duplicate, and I can't duplicate easily in a browser. So then I would use BusyCal. So what we use is BusyCal or a browser, and our calendars are hosted on Google Calendar. So it depends where yours are and what features you're looking for. But BusyCal's very good, but it's kind of subscription. It's an 18-month, you get all the updates, and then if you don't pay again, you don't get any of the updates. But pro tip with that is, which we just did, didn't we? Sometimes it's available on offer, and I mean really cheap, like £5. If you get that license, which we did, so we got this license Black Friday 2021. No, we didn't. It was April, wasn't it? That's right. Yeah. We got it at some point anyway. And there was an offer at Christmas. And I said to Mike, it was Black Friday. We've got 18 months from Black Friday. So we bought it Black Friday 2021. And it was going to expire in April 2023. So at Christmas, there was a Christmas deal at this company. And basically they were selling like a bundle. You made your own bundle. And one of the apps was BusyCal. And I said to Mike, just a minute, this BusyCal thing in this offer, I said, it gives you 18 months. So Mike said, yeah, ours is out in April. I said, yeah, but I'd rather pay now and get 18 months for a £5 than I would leave it till April and end up paying like probably about £30-40. And that's what we did. And we now have a license that expires in April and another one that goes through to probably Black Friday 2024, by which time I'm hoping there's going to be another offer. So it doesn't have to cost the earth, BusyCal. You just have to be careful when you buy it and where you buy it. What else have we got?
That's it.
Oh, right. Let's head back into here and see what we've got coming up. We're back next time, and it's a Valentine's special. You're wondering, aren't you? It's how to make a Valentine's photo book and cards and all kinds of things in Affinity Publisher. So you won't want to miss that. I thought about doing it on the 10th, but then I thought that doesn't give you much time, does it? So an early Valentine's special next week. And available on demand, everything that we do. So there is an After Hours playlist. You will find that at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. If you love us, give the video a like. That really helps with YouTube. As does a subscription, and you won't miss anything that we've got coming up. There is my newsletter at elainegiles.com/VIP. And there is the MacBites mail at macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. There is also Slack, where we carry on the conversation. Completely free, a bit like Twitter without the vitriol, is like I like to describe it. macbites.co.uk/Slack. And there is where you can find us, although I am beginning to wonder about Twitter. At least that app that I use, TweetDeck, stopped driving me insane. But the third-party apps are gone now, aren't they? Which is so sad. So sad, but what can you do? So, do you have any last questions? This is what I need to know. Mike's having a ponder now, aren't you? Oh, well, thank you, Kim. Kim says, thank you so much. Love you guys. Love you too. Love you too. What else have we got? Oh, Carol says, where do we find better file rename? Right, there's two options for renaming files.
Give them a link.
One is a Better Finder rename and the other one is File Mangler. I have both because they both excel at different things. But a Better Finder rename is kind of easier to use, I would say. The only thing to think about with that is there's options at the bottom and it's not clear what they do. And they're critical. I only wanted the files renamed and I wanted them to iterate through the folders, and there's checkboxes at the bottom for that. But it's a really worthwhile purchase when you're doing stuff like that. Half of that job only needed to be done once. So the lead up to creating that YYYY zip file with all the files in, only needed doing once. after that point, it's a simple matter of renaming them. Okay, do we have anything else? Oh, jammy. I am the Affinity Photo. I've looked. What are you thrilled about? Because I must admit, when I actually looked at the list of new features, I'm like, nah. What are you thrilled about? Let me know. That would be a big help. Trust me. One of them was some weirdness with a normals filter. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, yeah, and I think that the most exciting stuff was the stuff they added to Publisher and the, what was that feature called? The shape buildery thing. That thing. Those were the best features, but Photo is, I'm going to say it, a little bit on the disappointed side. So let me know. You love my demonstrations, right? Does it matter particularly what I demonstrate then? Should we? You know what I have been asked to do? A complete beginner's guide to Photo. I must have had about half a dozen mails on that since Christmas, and I'm like, yeah, that's not actually a bad idea. Not even for people coming from Photoshop. That was one of the most popular requests a few months back. But now it's just like a beginner's guide, a 101, a complete 101. Who wants a 101 to Photo? Let me know. Oh, you just want to see some demos. Oh, well, I guess I could dust Charlie the Camel off. Have you seen me Charlie the Camel demo? Charlie was fabulous. Do you remember that?
That's before his time, I think.
I think it was, you know. There was Charlie and Bruno. Charlie was a camel and Bruno was a St. Bernard dog. Oh, if you've not seen these.
Bruno the Shan.
Yes, Bruno the Shan. He was in your French book, wasn't he?
That's why I said it.
My French book was a complete mystery to me. Seriously. I remember in my French, you know when you had to do an oral exam and it was all recorded? I had a complete meltdown. I was so bad at languages. I'm great with computer languages, but not other languages. So I went into this thing and I think the teacher was as bad as me because he was really French and he could not say Giles. To save his life, he could not say it. And the thing was, when he started, he was brutal because my French was so bad. He would pick me up on every word. So when he had to say my name, the best he could do was Gilles. And every time he did it, I picked him up on it, just like he picked me up on the French. So it was like a Mexican standoff between the two of us. And we got into this exam where he was recording it, and he stopped the recorder. And he'd written it down phonetically and everything, but he still had problem with a hard G. So he said, it's Gilles. Eventually he got it out and I said, you best get the recorder on while you can remember. But then he started testing me. So he starts giving me these pictures and it was a picture of a kitchen. And he said, where are they? And I had a complete meltdown and totally forgot the word for kitchen. I know, it's cuisine, isn't it? Yes. Well, I had a complete meltdown and I said, in the house. But, I wasn't wrong, was I? Because where was the kitchen? In the house. Dans la maison. Yeah, my French not good. Oh, dear me. Hello, Tony. How you doing?
Long time no see. Tottenham must have won.
Oh, did they?
They did in the week.
Oh, and how did tonight's match go? It was City, Arsenal.
City won 1-0.
Oh, only one? Yeah. That wasn't as exciting as United. They managed to get 3, and then there was the Forest one that was cancelled off. They chalked that one off. Oh, indeed.
Shammy does remember you put a pyramid in the background and use the feathering tool.
Darn it, can't do that again then. That was on the iPad version when it first came out. And I wanted to see how good, because obviously using your finger was more tactile and using the pencil was much more tactile than using a mouse to try and draw around it. And he did a really good job. But I did have another idea with Charlie. So it would involve Charlie, but not a pyramid. Would that be acceptable if Charlie wasn't with the pyramids? Think of it as Charlie's World Tour. There's nothing wrong with that. Principle's the same, but even though. Oh, dear me. Patience says, all I can remember how to say in French is first and middle name. And constipation. That could be very useful. That could be incredibly useful. Thing with me with French was, I think I have a problem when what you're doing feels like rehearsed. Hence going live on YouTube and not doing video. It feels like fake. So when we went to France, which you know, given my level of French, it was a wonder my mother let me out of her sight. When we got to France, this girl who was brilliant at French, she was brilliant at everything. She was the A-star student at everything. Yeah, you know, the ones that you dislike intensely. Yeah, she was brilliant at everything. And we're walking down the street and she's like, I want the cake. And so she went into this cake shop and she came out again, literally within like 30 seconds, no cake. I said, where's the cake? And she was as white as a sheet, and she said, I don't know what to say. I said, don't be ridiculous. You know, you're an A-star student. What's wrong with you? And she said, no, and she couldn't speak. So she said, I'll do without. So I said, don't be ridiculous. And there's me, couldn't speak a word of French. And I marched in and I looked at it and I thought, right, what do I need to know? And I thought, right, gâteau is cake. So I said, un gâteau. I pointed at it because there was no way I was going to be able to describe it. And I said, combien? And the woman said, like, you know, 2 cents or whatever, or not cents, what were they? Centimes? Francs, 2 francs or something, like 20 pence. And I said, fine, you know, d'accord. And off we went. And she hadn't bought a cake, I'd bought a cake. I was fine when pushed. But I, you know, you put me in an exam situation, absolutely useless. Put it like this. It came as a blinding revelation when I got my results. I didn't know there was anything less than an F. But there is! Not good at French. A-star at everything else. It looked ridiculous. Honestly, that was what it's like. I got A in everything, apart from French. It's just the one thing. No wonder they didn't let me know Spanish and German, isn't it? Yeah, there is something lower than an F. Who knew? Oh dear. Right. I can't read that bottom thing. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Oh, there we go. Right, you don't use the Photos app anymore due to the inability to find them and share with other non-Mac apps. You'd be interested in learning. Sharing photos. I'm finding Eagle fabulous for virtually everything. Organising for the sessions, organising posters. Honestly, it's amazing. And I find even when I'm trying to do something with it that, you know, I hadn't really planned on doing, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's easy. You know, it's not difficult. It can do it. So I'm loving Eagle. We'll have a think about that. Oh, Carol joined the captain's table. That did not go unnoticed, Carol. I saw your name emblazoned in the presentation twice because Dickie moved on too fast and I thought that said Carol. What's going on? And then it came back. But I didn't know if you were telling everybody. So I did not broadcast that. But congratulations. Welcome aboard. Which one are you? There's the jet ski, isn't there? And the speedboat and the yacht. Which one did you go for? I'm never quite sure what's in where, but there is a mini cohort starting. I think he said the 20th of February. So I'm going to have a little bit of a break and then I'll join the mini cohort. You can do it self-paced, but it's always better to do it with folk, isn't it? So I'll do some of that. Speedboat. I'm not sure which one that jet ski. Yeah, that's the middle one, I think, isn't it? Yeah, they've got some good stuff coming. They just released, I don't know, they didn't say what level it was in, but they just released the lean writing thing. And that started just before, it started in December, so it was before you joined. And it started as a session, and they did this session, and it was fantastic. Really, really motivational session. And while they were doing it, they generated a Notion page. And it was genius. And they said, we'll share the Notion page. It was in the captain's table thing, so we knew it was for the captain's table. But they decided they weren't going to share this Notion page straight away. And they said, we're going to work on it and we'll share it down the line. So the mail came out either the very beginning of this week or last week. And it was this page that they'd built into an entire course. And I can't wait to get my hands on that one because it was just so good before Christmas. It's one of those things where it brought complete clarity. And then I remember thinking, oh, I want to refer back to that. And I'm like, oh, I've only got my notes. Luckily, I'd taken some screenshots during the session and I was able to use Text Sniper to grab the text and add it to my notes. But they have actually released the whole course now. I'll find out which one it is and let you know. But it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Lean writing something. So if you want to have a look for lean writing, you'll find it. Okay. What else have we got?
Do you purchase Obsidian Sync? Is that needed?
I didn't purchase Obsidian Sync straight away, no. It can sync using any cloud. Now, there's a couple of caveats with that. You were using Dropbox, weren't you?
Yeah.
Right, Mike was using Dropbox to sync it. That was absolutely fine. I was using iCloud. Yes, I wondered why. The reason I was using iCloud was iCloud is one of only 2 ways to synchronize to iOS devices. So if you're Android or you're only synchronizing between desktops, you can use anything you like. But if you need it to sync to iOS, you need to use either iCloud or Obsidian Sync. So I tried it with iCloud and it was okay for about 2 or 3 weeks. By that stage, I was all in with Obsidian. And I came to this day and I could not get it to sync. It just would not sync. No matter what I did with it, it was not having it. So I said to Mike, I know I'm all in with Obsidian and I'm going to take the sync option. Luckily, I'd seen a video on YouTube that explained how this person had set up sync. And it became clear that you've got something like, I think it's 5 or 6 volts you can sync. And they don't all have to be yours. So I sync my main volt. I only have 1 volt, all the rest are demo volts. But I sync my main volt with Obsidian Sync, and I have piggybacked Mike onto my account so he can synchronize his. So for us, it's like paying 50% each rather than the whole thing. But the sync is seamless. The sync is amazing. So I know it's not cheap, but for me, it was worth it. It just depends how all in you are on it and if you're using it on iOS. iOS is the issue because iOS just can't handle other stuff like Dropbox. It's weird, isn't it? Because you've got Scrivener that can only use Dropbox, and then you've got other apps that can only use iCloud. And the number of times I hear from Scrivener users, I want to use iCloud. I mean, they must want locking up, but, you know, they want to use iCloud and it's not working. And then you've got Obsidian users that want to use Dropbox and that's not working either. It just depends how the thing is written. But yes, I do pay for that. Is self-hosting Obsidian an option? Yes, I know a lot of people that do, they've got like NAS solutions and they do it that way. The issue is iOS. You can get it working on iOS. There is a free way to do it that involves either GitHub, or something else. There are ways and means if you are technical enough to be able to be dealing with it. But my problem was, it's like, yes, I could probably MacGyver something here. But you know what? I just need to get the job done. And so for me, I didn't want to play around on iOS. You know, it'd be all right today and broken tomorrow. So I left it alone. I'm wondering, you know, if this iPad will now let me update. I had to do the 16.3 update to try and get the App Store awake. And that's why I demonstrated on the old apps, because I literally could not install the new ones. And now it's working. So that was Apple forcing me to update. So it told me there were 6 updates, and it's lying because there's 10. But I will now update all of that because Things has updated as well. So I need that too. So yes, I paid for the sync, but that was because I haven't got time to play around. But there are other alternatives. Hello, Ken. Hosting Obsidian with Dropbox, excluding iOS and iPhone. If you don't want to work on iOS and iPhone, you're fine. Absolutely fine. It's a shame because I know it's not their fault. They've actually said, Obsidian, that if anybody comes up with any ideas that they've not tried, they are more than willing to try and make it work with Dropbox. Dropbox was the #1 request. I tried it with Dropbox. Mike had it on Dropbox. It's fantastic. I tried it on iOS for 2 weeks. It was fine for 2 weeks, but then I've just found that iCloud is absolute garbage. There are no words to describe how bad it is at times. So I wasn't surprised when it all went awry. And, you know, we're talking here, because Obsidian is so transparent, in where the data is, and there's no hidden configuration stuff and all of that. Everything is in that folder. I was able to take the whole thing off iCloud and start again, and it still wasn't having it. So the odds were iCloud was having a really bad day, but I haven't got time for it to have a bad day. As simple as that. So I did look at the cost and think, ouch, but then I thought, well, do you need it working? Normally I'm working on a desktop girl, but I had taken to working in a prone position, hadn't I, resting. And that was working on my iPad. And I didn't need any grief where it didn't sync. And I have had 0 issues with the sync. It's seamless. But I appreciate it's not cheap. It's not cheap. But I consider that is supporting them for the rest of the stuff. Because the time scale that they get updates out and the depth of the updates. I mean, they added a canvas feature. If all it did was let you show a note, that'd be pretty impressive. But it's only been out about 6 weeks and they've added feature upon feature upon feature. So for me, it's worth it. Your mileage may vary. Okay. Now, Ken, I agree, and I like that. I don't want... I mean, you can, if you want to, collaborate. But both people have to have access to the same account that's synchronizing. And I think they even have to have the secret keystroke password thing to do it. And even then, you can't change the same file at the same time. So it's certainly not like collaboratively working on a Word document or... mind you, Excel doesn't do that either, does it? Say Google Docs, because that works. It's not like that, but to me, that's the beauty of it. Obsidian is where I put my stuff. If I want to share it with Mike, I'll put it in Notion. Notion's for sharing. I guess it's just the way that I think about it. It's a private playground for my head, not particularly sharing or collaborating. Because the thing is, even if you could do it, and even if you could do it on the same file, it's not really built for collaboration because changes would appear, but nobody would know who had made the changes. Even in Rome, where we use multiplayer in the book club, you had to manually tag that you changed it. I mean, you could track it up to a point as long as you put your name in, but you had to manually put your name in. So if you were up to nefarious naughties, you could put somebody else's name in, or you could put anonymous and nobody would have a clue who it was. So no, none of those kind of tools are set up in that kind of way. And I know there are people out there that want one tool to rule the rest. They want everything. They want their to-dos, their calendar, the whole lot in Notion. Well, you can do that if you want, but I'd rather have a tool stack where each tool was dedicated to what it did. So I tried Notion for to-dos. It just became a black hole fast. So they're in Things, and my calendar stuff's in Google, and my personal notes are in Obsidian, and anything shared with Mike will be in Notion. We use anything else beyond Notion? Or is that it? Oh, we've got Craft, haven't we?
I'll say Craft.
We've got Craft for one job. One job a year we use Craft for, and it works fabulously for it. And I have been known to put stuff in Craft at the point of delivery because it's buttery smooth. So when I'm delivering like a live session, I may take the notes that I've probably made in Obsidian and I may put them in Craft. It depends. But I believe in a tech stack rather than like one tool. Maybe there'll be one tool one day, but we're not there yet, are we? We're definitely not there yet. Have I done a talk on NAS blah blah blah? No. I don't use it. I don't use anything like that. I have drives here, but all I do with them, I keep it really simple because I just don't have the overhead, the bandwidth, to deal with issues. So we've got lots of cloud storage, but drives that are in the office are just twinned. So every time I buy a hard drive, I buy 2. So we did an unboxing a couple of weeks back, and I'd got a 20 terabyte drive from Western Digital. Instead of 1, I bought 2. They are synchronized constantly, and that's it. Now, technically people say to me, well, you can get more storage if you put a NAS in and whatever. I haven't got the bandwidth to deal with it. When it breaks, that'll be the end of that. I remember that. Do you remember that? Oh, what was it called? Drobo. Do you remember Drobo? Drobo brought out this NAS thing, and it was like a home version. It certainly wasn't a business level thing, but it was competitively priced. All you needed to do was buy the thing and put the drives in it. And the idea was that if a drive broke, you took it out, you put a new blank drive in, and you regenerated it. And everything was fine. It backed itself up. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, that'd be nice. And then I came to my senses, and I thought, I was looking at it and thinking, what's the single point of failure? I thought, what happens if the Drobo breaks? You're left with 2, 3, 4, 5 drives that are useless without another Drobo. So surely, in my mind, the single point of failure was the Drobo. Well, as I was thinking that, about just out of the guarantee, about 12 months later, all the people who'd bought Drobos, the Drobos broke. It wasn't the drives that died, the Drobos did. One after the other, and you've got no choice but to go and buy another one. Which is fine as long as the software hasn't updated, and as long as you can take those drives and just put them in another Drobo and them regenerate or at least read the things, that's great. But one point out in the software, and then people just ended up with drives that had data on that should have been fine, but they weren't fine because the actual Drobo had broken. It became a thing, and I don't know what happened to them now, but I never hear people say, no, go and get a Drobo. Let's put it like that. So, are we done with questions?
Yeah.
Can we go and eat? Yay! Yes, Johnny uses his, but he uses it in the right way. So just like me buying 2 drives, that one is twin to the other, he has 2 NAS solutions in different physical locations. So he has a NAS in his flat that is his. He has another one that is his mother's. That is her backup, and his backup lives with her. And so they basically bought 4 of them, and he's got 2, she's got 2. One of his is in his flat, one of his is in her location, and vice versa. And they back up over the internet. So they are in sync all the time. So if it broke, if the drive broke or whatever, he does have a backup of it. Beyond that, I have no idea what he does with it. So I have to ping him.
Oh, there's a question from Carol.
Right, where you go.
When using sync, do you choose the customize end-to-end encryption password turned on?
Yes, I did turn that on. I'm not overly concerned about it, but I thought, it's there, might as well do it. Caveat on that is if you enable that and then you forget what it is, you are lost. Having said that, you should have a local copy of the data, or you should have a copy of the data somewhere. If you are backing up like I do every 10 minutes, because the backup takes literally a couple of seconds and just goes on an external, I think it's going on an external drive or the cloud. I think it goes to a cloud. You should be all right, but they won't be able to help with that password. So make sure that is something you can either remember or stick it in a password manager. Probably not LastPass after the issues at Christmas. If you hadn't heard, LastPass were hacked and everybody's data's in the wild. It's got some sort of hash on it, but it's not good news. I couldn't believe that when I heard it, because that was one of the most popular ones against 1Password. And I think the issue was 1Password subscription and LastPass wasn't. But apparently they'd been warned that there was a danger. And they did an Apple, which, I say, Mike, if Apple have got some bad news, it'll be a Friday at 4 o'clock. They released this information day before Christmas Eve. No wonder everybody missed it. And they've not said anything since. So if you're using LastPass, change your passwords, basically. And maybe think about making them as secure as possible or moving somewhere else. So that was the LastPass thing. Okay, if that is it, I will see you for our Valentine's special, Bring Chocolates. Bring chocolates and wine, if you are minded, next week. And we will be doing design. We will be doing Valentine's design. I've got, I think I've got some stock to share. And I'll be showing you how to make certain things. that will possibly involve hearts and things. And if you're on your own, you're not doing the Valentine's thing, because, I know what you're going to say.
What?
Oh, well, Mike, you usually say it every time Valentine's Day is mentioned. I love you the other 364 days in the year.
365 in a leap year.
Not this year, though. I got my numbers wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you could make it 365 if you like, 366, that'll do. Okay, so I am going to say goodnight to everybody. Glad you enjoyed it, Patience. Thank you very much, Kim. LastPass's subscription. After the breach, Debbie is using Bitwarden. That was another one that was recommended by somebody who was talking. I was talking to them about the LastPass thing, and they mentioned that they were using Bitwarden. But I'm still with 1Password, but I've not upgraded to 1Password 8. It's more of me being awkward than anything else because it's Electron, and I'm concerned. I like a Mac app, unless it's Obsidian, and then I can live with it. But there you go. So, for the moment, I'm going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.